Bias.com, a public service message from Obesity Action Coalition.
Do you disregard people's personal space? Sitting next to people in public, even if there are tons of open seats? Do people ask, how do you sleep at night? Then you should get a mattress from Mattress Firm. They can help anyone sleep. Mattress Firm's 72-hour sale is happening now. Save up to 72% off on top brands, with queens starting at $149.99. Get matched at Mattress Firm. Sleep at night. Restrictions apply. See store or mattressfirm.com for details.
I'm attorney Brian Ritchie. Workers' comp can be tricky, but my law firm will be on top of all the complicated paperwork and sneaky deadlines so that all of your I's are dotted and T's are crossed. If you've been hurt on the job, I'm on top of it. Contact us at ritchielaw.com.
Talking about guns with others might not always feel comfortable, but it could save a life. Here's a way to start a conversation. Your family is going over to your neighbor's home for dinner for the first time. How would you ask if there are any unlocked guns in the home?
Hey,
We're so excited for tonight. Before we come over, may I ask a few questions?
yeah, of course.
Do you have any pets?
Yes, we have a dog.
Great. Do you have a pool outside?
Nope, just a big old backyard.
Nice. Another question. Are there any unlocked guns in the home?
Our guns are stored securely, locked in a safe that the kids can't access.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, let's just talk about what we can bring for dessert.
Learn how to have the conversation at agreetoagree.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
I think my biggest challenge was getting through to him to understand that love is real and you have goals in mind, you have things that want to happen, and I want to help you get there.
Sometimes people tend to shy away from wanting to adopt teenagers because they feel like they've lost so much, but there's still so much to gain.
Just knowing that there's just that other person that cares and loves me out there, it feels great. And they've done so much for me, and I can only be appreciative every single day for just having them in my life.
I think it's been the best decision because I gained a son, and he's the best son ever. If I was down and out, he'd be there.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Broadcasting live from the Lenovo Studios. WCMC HD1 Holly Springs. 99.9 The Fan. The Triangle Sports Leader.
Middle of the day Monday already hot with temperatures reaching the mid-90s this afternoon. Isolated downpours then possible. A 20% chance overnight with temperatures in the mid-70s. Then Tuesday low 90s with showers and storms becoming more likely late in the day. I'm meteorologist Chris Michaels in the WRAL Severe Weather Center.
Weather update brought to you by Newcomb & Company, where your comfort is their business. Visit newcombandcompany.com. 3 o'clock check of your money. Dow Jones up 44,200 points at 180.
All right, hockey fans, stay locked in this week. It's our Canes free agent frenzy presented by John Heister Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram on 99.9 The Fan this week. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly here on The Drive. Graham Hill out here producing the show today. And folks, free agency for the Canes and for the entire NHL, it starts tomorrow, but that doesn't mean moves aren't already being made. Let's go ahead and right from the get-go, Graham, let's get into our 3 Big three at 3 to start things off today. And that number one story.
Number one.
The latest on Mitch Marner. Toronto Maple Leafs forward Mitch Marner is the big fish in the small pond that is free agency. There's not a lot out there in terms of free agency. And reports surfaced over the weekend, Graham, that the Vegas Golden Knights, I don't know how they afford to do it, but they keep finding themselves in the middle of every deal. But the Vegas Golden Knights were actually looking to trade for the rights to negotiate with Toronto Maple Leafs winger Mitch Marner before free agency opens. That was actually some words that we got out over the weekend. Much like how Tampa Bay last year sent a third-round pick to the Carolina Hurricanes last year to be able to sign and talk to Jake Gensel before free agency even started. So very similar to that. Part of the deal reportedly for Marner would include a current player, probably Nick Waugh of the Vegas Golden Knights, who's actually a former Carolina Hurricane, as well as a draft pick going to Toronto for Mitch Marner. Also, there's a possibility of a sign and trade. Like maybe Toronto could sign Mitch Marner to an 8-year deal and then flip him to Vegas as part of a sign and trade. Or maybe it's just a 4-year deal, whatever it might be. So that was part of the conversation as well. But nonetheless, a player would need to go back from Vegas to Toronto in order to make that deal work. Either way, Vegas is going to have to move on from somebody in order to make the Mitch Marner deal work. Again, most likely former Cane Nick Waugh, who's making $3 million a year. Now, Vegas, again, late last night, actually traded one of the restricted free agents in defenseman Nicholas Hague, as well as a draft pick to Nashville for forward Colton Sissons, as well as defenseman Jeremy Lauzon. Nashville actually is retaining half of Sissons' contract, who has 1 year left on his deal. So Vegas essentially added $3.4 million in that trade that went through late last night. Now, Nick Waugh makes around $3 million, so essentially a wash. All right? So the way I view it is you traded one of your restricted free agents, you get a forward and a defenseman back because most likely you're getting rid of, well, you did trade a defenseman, but you're about to trade a forward anyway in Nick Waugh. So if Nick Waugh gets moved, his $3 million. If defenseman Alex Pietrangelo goes on long-term injured reserve, which is a likely thing because Pietrangelo's injury is likely to run not only just through this season, but even possibly into next year. So he's $8.8 million in cap relief. Add Waugh getting moved, they have about $2.1 million in cap space. Combine all that, you're at just under $14 million to spend on Marner, and apparently he might sign like a 4-year deal at between 12 and 13. All signs are pointing to Vegas. We're going to talk more about this at 3:15, Graham. Let's go ahead and get into the second biggest story of our big three at 3.
Number 2.
Carolina Hurricanes draft. I was actually there on Friday. I was at the Lenovo Executive Center on the Lenovo campus out there in Morrisville. I was there. A bunch of other media members were there, and we were sitting in a room basically right down the hall from the Carolina Hurricanes war room where GM Erik Tulsky, Assistant General Manager Darren York, who's really ahead of the amateur scouting and all that. And Rob Brindamore was there. A whole bunch of their scouts. Everyone was there. And Erik Tulsky, Graham, that man continues to find value in the draft. The Canes went into the draft with a first-round pick, a third-round pick, a first, a third, a fourth, 2 sixths, and a seventh. So 6 total picks, half of them coming in the last 2 rounds of the draft. They walk out with 3 second-round picks, 2 thirds, a sixth, and a seventh. So 7 picks, where 5 of them came in rounds 2 and 3. Now, granted, they did have to give up a third-round pick next year, but they also gained a 5th-round pick in 2027 in the process. But granted, they also have 2 first-round picks next year as well as a second-round pick. So, Graham, I have no doubt they're going to be able to recoup any of these picks that they want to if they just continue to move down like we saw the other day. But this team continues to find value in the draft. And, Graham, 4 of those 7 picks, Russians.
The Carolina Russians.
Yeah.
The nickname that I'm giving them now.
Graham, patent that. Trademark that. The Russians as opposed to Graham Hill. Now, Corey Lavalette of the North State Journal, who also writes for The Athletic, made a really good point where he was asked about this on social media. I saw him post this either earlier today or yesterday. But why are the Carolina Hurricanes drafting Russian players while other teams are not saying refusing to do so, but are scared to do so? And he pointed out a few different things. One, it's hard to get players from Russia to get transferred over from their KHL contracts if they have one. It's just hard to get players over to the U.S. Just see what we saw with Alexander Nikishin last year when his KHL contract was up. Just the process of getting a work visa and all those kinds of things, because there's no, the diplomatic relationship between the United States and Russia. This is, where politics literally come into this. So remember, Nikishin had to go to, Turkey and Saudi Arabia and all these other different places for him to actually just get to the United States with a work visa. So that's a difficult thing to do. And then you have to get a visa to also be able to go play games in Canada as well. So another thing is just the uncertainty of players if they're actually willing to come over. They might come into the NHL draft, but if they're making good money in the KHL and they want to stay close to home, well, guess what? I'm not going to go over to the United States. It's hard to ask somebody, no matter what their profession is, to move however many hours away from home on a flight, how many time zones away on a flight to go do their job. It's to a foreign country, foreign language, all those different things. It's hard to ask someone to do that. And three, not every team has the resources to actually scout players in person overseas, especially in Russia. This is where Carolina Hurricanes, they find those market inefficiencies and they take advantage of it. They're even talking about some of their guys they drafted in the second and third round. The Russian players were like, yeah, this guy's actually first round talent, but teams are just afraid to draft him because of, getting this guy over here. Just like Alexander Nikishin was a third round pick. And guess what? That guy's set to be hopefully a star for this organization going forward. The Hurra Russians, as Graham likes to call them. And the third thing, big three at three.
Number 3.
To start off the show. The NFL said, hey, guess what? Hold my beer. Hold my beer.
Yeah, we can have trades too.
We can have trades too.
It's not about just hockey right now.
The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Miami Dolphins pull off a pretty massive trade. The Steelers are sending safety Minkah Fitzpatrick as well as a 2027 fifth-round pick to the Miami Dolphins for Jalen Ramsey, the cornerback, as well as tight end Jonnu Smith and a 2027 seventh-round pick. Now, Minkah Fitzpatrick was actually a first-round pick of the Dolphins back in 2018, and early in 2019, that season, he was traded along with a couple picks to Pittsburgh for a 2020 first-round pick, and overall has been really good in Pittsburgh since then as a free safety, but now he's going back to Miami. Jalen Ramsey was originally drafted by Jacksonville in 2016, was traded to the LA Rams during the 2019 season, won a Super Bowl in 2021 with the Rams, was traded to the Dolphins in the offseason just before the 2023 year. He signed a big contract with them. He's played the last couple seasons in Miami. And Jonnu Smith, who's the tight end going from Miami up to Pittsburgh, previously played in Atlanta and in Tennessee under Arthur Smith, who happens to be the offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Previously the head coach with the Atlanta Falcons when Jonnu Smith was there. When he was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee, Jonnu Smith was there. So again, there's that whole familiarity type thing. But my biggest takeaway from this, Graham, when I saw it, is obviously I know a lot of Carolina Panthers fans were very interested in Jalen Ramsey because it would definitely help solidify that corner position. Because I know J.C. Horn is obviously that number one guy. And Mike Jackson had a pretty decent year last year, but if you can elevate that position even further, that'd be great. But Pittsburgh has a good young corner in Joey Porter Jr. They added Darius Slay this offseason, who's an aging player. And then they now trade for Jalen Ramsey. So they have a void at safety, but now they've got a plethora of corners. But Pittsburgh has made some crazy trades this offseason. Just kind of, I don't say lack of a better term, but out of character. They went and made that big splash to get DK Metcalf from Seattle. They traded George Pickens to Dallas. And then now they've traded for Jalen Ramsey. And then throw on the whole Aaron Rodgers stuff on top of it. It's been a little bit of a wild ride if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan this offseason. So anyway, NFL just jumping in here and say, hey, guess what? We still exist. We're still here. Which, by the way, Graham, real quick, 24 days away from training camp.
It's crazy to think about.
24 days away from Carolina Panthers training camp.
Until the pads officially come on.
It's wild. It's going to be here before you know it. It's going to be here before you know it. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Our number one story to start things off, again, the latest on Mitch Marner. Will the Carolina Hurricanes land Mitch Marner? It feels like with each passing moment, the opportunity to get Mitch Marner come tomorrow seems to be fading more and more away. But in 2 minutes, we'll talk about the latest on the big fish in the big free agent pond next.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, and it's no surprise. Same-game parlay from Bet365 just keeps getting better.
Well, it's even easier to make a bet. Choose from the most popular markets, like hits, run line, totals, and home runs. So many to choose from.
Download the app, start building your bet, and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in North Carolina. T&Cs apply.
Dear McDonald's, your breakfast menu? Fire. 10s across the board. I could be happy with anything, even though I order the same thing every time. Thanks for not judging me. I'll try something new next time. Maybe.
Get your faves for less. Buy a sausage McMuffin with egg for $2.50. Add any size Sprite for $1.49. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Down on credit cards, struggling with high interest debt? You can pay it all off in days with Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. Hey, it's Dennis Cox. Get cash out now without touching your low-rate first mortgage. No appraisals, no waiting, no BS. The Rapid Equity Loan program at Loan Pronto is amazing. One Loan Pronto client just got $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. They paid off debt, renovated the kitchen, and cut their monthly expenses by $1,800. That's a huge turnaround. Loan Pronto, instant approvals, low rates, no hard credit pull up front. Listen, your home equity is yours. Use it. Get cash to consolidate your debt down to one easy low monthly payment. Call Loan Pronto now for a free instant appraisal for your home and see how much cash you can get today. Loan Pronto is A+ rated by the BBB and have nearly 2,500 5-star Google reviews. Their service is off the charts. Call now to start the conversation. 919-381-1760, loanpronto.com. 919-381-1760. Get debt relief now. Loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 166171 on approved credit. NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
23 power play points last year. Kicked it back to Caulfield. Broken up. Here's a break. 2-on-1. Marner across. Can't hit too deep. Marner scores. And they do have their first shorthanded goal of the year.
So all signs, again, are pointing to Mitch Marner going to the Vegas Golden Knights. By the way, it's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. This week as a whole, Graham Hill producing the show. Real quick, Graham, someone that's also in the potentially free agency pool that might not be on the market anymore. Go ahead and hit the breaking news. All right, this comes from Bob McKenzie, who used to work for TSN, longtime hockey insider. He posted this on X about a minute ago, Graham. All signs point to Aaron Ekblad in Florida making progress on a long-term deal that, assuming it's finalized, would take the veteran defenseman out of free agency.
Wow.
So Aaron Ekblad looks like he's going to re-sign with the Florida Panthers. My guess is that they kept Sam Bennett 8 years, $8 million a year. If they keep Aaron Ekblad, they had about $11 million in cap space. My guess is that they probably aren't going to make a deal work with Brad Marchand. Now, we'll kind of get into a little bit of that later on. Brad Marchand probably has a very short list of teams that he's interested in playing for. Maybe it's Toronto. Maybe it's going back to Boston possibly. I mean, Florida, the Panthers certainly was a possibility as well, but who knows? Heck, I would love Brad Marchand in a Carolina Hurricane uniform. Just going to go ahead and say that.
See, I was under the impression after Sam Bennett re-signed, I thought that Brad Marchand maybe just loved the culture. I mean, he won the Stanley Cup with the Panthers this past season, and Ekblad was going to be on the outside looking in. That might not be the case.
Yeah, I see both philosophies on it. I mean, Brad Marchand might be looking at like, hey, this is my chance to cash in. This is going to be my final contract, go cash in. My name's on the cup twice. I can still go play for a good team, but let me go get top dollar. And you know what? That's his right, and he's earned it. That's his right, and he's earned it. So there you go. Looks like Aaron Ekblad not going to hit free agency from the Florida Panthers. Looks like he's going to stay with Florida. So not hitting free agency. We'll discuss at 4:45 some potential trade targets and things along those lines for the Carolina Hurricanes as well as free agents. And guess what? Scratch Aaron Ekblad off the list, looks like. It is the free agent frenzy this week, presented by John Heister Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. And that big free agent that's out there that the league is always curious or really keeping an eye on is Mitch Marner. Now, don't be shocked if Mitch Marner doesn't come to Carolina. I know, obvious here. But don't be surprised. And honestly, Graham, I'm sure you've seen this. It's on our YouTube live chat, which, by the way, go on 99.9 The Fan's YouTube page. Watch us there. You can leave thoughts in the comments and everything in the comments section as well as the live chat. Canes fans are kind of split on Mitch Marner. Now, maybe Mitch Marner could be the guy that does make Carolina better in the playoffs. I think everyone can obviously say that this team desperately needs scoring. The only 20-goal scorers that are coming back on the roster next year are Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, and Seth Jarvis. That's it. Now I think Logan Stankoven could be a 20-plus goal scorer for this team. I certainly think so. Maybe Taylor Hall can get back to being a 20-goal scorer. But this team needs a top-end scorer or two. Now, Marner can bring that. Now, is Marner a bad playoff player, or was he just stuck on a franchise and team that hasn't been successful in the playoffs in basically, this century? That's another discussion for another time. But all signs right now, Graham, are pointing to Mitch Marner to Vegas. Certainly not a guarantee. Carolina, as we know, has been interested in Mitch Marner for a while, as has Vegas. And Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet on his 32 Thoughts podcast said Vegas, Carolina, Mitch Marner. There's actually been a lot of conversations between these two teams and this player going all the way back to the trade deadline.
As we know now, Mitch Marner declined to waive his no-move clause to go to Carolina. And I get that one. His wife was pregnant. She was due. I get that. To me, that's perfectly reasonable. He wouldn't go to Carolina. That fell apart. Now, there was a conversation. Vegas was later brought in, and they kind of talked about, or at some point there, Vegas was brought in, and they talked about Marner to Vegas, Rantanen from Carolina to Dallas, as eventually happened, but they couldn't sort out a way to make it all work for the Hurricanes. Was there a pet player or packages of players they could get that made them happy? But a three-way option was discussed. I don't think it ever went to Marner, but they talked about it. And again, it's another example of how Vegas was interested in Marner as a player.
So Vegas was interested. Carolina was interested from the get-go. Now, Vegas, according to Elliot Friedman, has approached Toronto about Marner even as far back as the scouting combine.
But I do believe one of the things that was talked about there was Vegas saying to the Maple Leafs, if you make Marner's rights available, we would like to talk to you about them. Once again, Vegas establishing that they like Marner. And I do believe over the last few days to a week, those conversations have begun. That the Maple Leafs and the Golden Knights have discussed what a trade for Marner's rights could look like.
Okay, that's the key right there. Are you going to make a deal in order to talk to Mitch Marner in advance? Again, just like we saw last year with the Carolina Hurricanes, we're a little slow on getting stuff with Jake Gensel done, and then sure enough, swoops in Tampa Bay. Now, we can get into kind of like a tampering conversation a little bit later on, but Tampa Bay swoops in. And it's like, hey, guess what? We'll give you a third-round pick so we can talk to Jake Gensel. Carolina gets a third-round pick, essentially as hush money, and Jake Gensel signs with Tampa Bay. That's what ends up happening. So that's what took place last year. This is a similar type situation. Now, in order to make the money work if you're Vegas, because they're about $2.1 million in cap space right now. In order to make the money work, one of their top defensemen, Alex Pietrangelo, who has a very bad lower body injury, and some people I talked to in Vegas last week that cover the team said, yeah, he's definitely going to miss this season, and it might even bleed into the following year, into like the 25-26 year. Like, it's a pretty bad injury. So $8.8 million of his salary can go on long-term IR, but they would still have to make some moves potentially. Elliot Freeman, again, on 32 Thoughts podcast, part of Sportsnet, discussed how Vegas can make the Marner signing work.
Vegas still needs to clear room to make this work. They don't want to trade Carlson, and they've told everybody that. They don't want to trade Hurdle, and they've told everybody that. They don't want to trade Barbashev, and they've told everybody that. So how does this all work? Well, one of the ways, and Kelly McCrimmon talked about this on Saturday with the local media there, is that Alex Pietrangelo, they have some decisions to make. And Pietrangelo, as I said several times, one of my favorite players, going to the Hall of Fame, but he's going to be on LTIR for a while, looks like. So that will create some room.
So that's going to create room. Like I said, Nick Waugh, who's making $3 million, if he moves as part of the trade, or they just offload him somewhere else and they can just sign him tomorrow at noon Eastern. So $8.8 million, $3 million of Pietrangelo's long-term IR. Nick Waugh, $3 million gets moved. Well, there's 11.8 right there, and they have $2.1 million in cap space right now. Well, then you can make that move. Then you can sign him to like a $12 million deal. Here's a caveat that people have to keep in mind. In the off-season, in the summertime, before like the season actually starts, you can be 10% over the salary cap in the summer because it allows teams to sign, trade, do whatever they got to do, anticipating guys are going to be on long-term IR. So you can be 10% over the salary cap. The salary cap is $95.5 million. So you can go $9.55 million over the cap in the summertime. So Vegas also has to be careful that they have to make some moves before they can sign Marner to be over that cap, that 10% limit, to be over the cap in the summertime. So Vegas has to be pretty strategic with what they do. Now, I've said, and now I doubt it's going to happen, especially when you heard Elliot Freeman talking about, hey, they don't want to trade Tomas Hurdle. They don't want to trade William Karlsson, Alex Barbashev. Like, they don't want to move any of these guys. They want to keep this team intact going into this season. I totally understand that. I've said I would love to get William Karlsson from Vegas. If Carolina can swoop in and be like, hey, we'll offer you, like, here's some young players and a pick, some players that can help play for you right away, and you can poach away William Karlsson, who has 2 years left on his deal of $5.9 million, I would take him in a heartbeat. William Karlsson has his name on the Stanley Cup, so he knows how to win in the playoffs, but he's also a tremendous defensive player as well, and also is an extremely great skater. Tomas Hurdle is slow. He's a slow skater, and the numbers back it up. He is actually a slower skater than Jordan Staal. And people are like, well, Stahl's slow. He's slower than Staal. I've posted about it on X. I can give you the numbers again if you want to. In terms of top-end speed bursts of 22 miles an hour plus. In terms of 20 to 22 mile per hour speed bursts and 18 to 20 mile per hour speed bursts, Tomas Hurdle is in the bottom 50 percentile in the entire NHL. Bottom 50 percentile. So he's on the bottom half of slow. It's not a great place to be. If you look at on the other side, let's say, like, again, I bring up Jordan Staal. Jordan Staal as a player, I'll bring up the numbers here just again for you as well. For comparison, Jordan Staal was 90th percentile in top speed, 71st percentile in 22 plus mile per hour bursts, 58th percentile in 20 to 22 mile per hour burst, 80th percentile in 18 to 20 mile per hour bursts. So if you guys are saying that, hey, Jordan Staal, if that's like your Mendoza line for speed, Tomas Hurdle is way slower. And it also concerns me that a player is a 31 goal scorer who's also a minus player. Yeah, it's great that you can do some great stuff on the power play. understand. I understand that the Canes need some help on the power play, but I can't trust you to be my number 2 center if you can't skate in a man-on-man system, if the other team center is just going to cook you. Can't pressure all over the ice if you can't keep up man-to-man with your guy. That's the reason why I wouldn't want Tomas Hertl. William Karlsson can skate much better. He's actually a guy, when they play against a team like Edmonton, they don't have to worry about Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl as much because Jack Eichel is pretty good defensively as a center, and William Karlsson can keep up with either McDavid or Draisaitl. He can skate that well. I don't think Carolina's going to be able to get William Karlsson, but if there's an opportunity, if I'm Erik Tulsky, I'm on that phone trying to make that call. This is where Carolina might not be able to get Mitch Marner, but how can they still benefit from some of these other moves that are taking place around the league? By the way, Graham, apparently Dallas is interested in Mitch Marner. I'm like, you have like not even $1 million in cap space right now. If that means you got to offload a couple of guys, Jason Robertson, Carolina, make that call.
We'll take him.
Yeah,
come on over here.
Make that call. If Mitch Marner wants to go to Dallas, cool. Carolina can take advantage of that. Now, again, people are split on Mitch Marner. That's totally fine. I 100% understand that. Again, at 4:45, we're going to talk about some more players coming up. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Folks, at about 4:15, 4:20, we're going to open up the phone lines for a Monday Soundoff. Okay? We will open up the phone lines for a Monday Soundoff. But on the other side, there are some college players and some college athletes that might be tied in with the Carolina Hurricanes that may have made the Dean's List. We'll have that next.
Let's move! We have soccer practice, dance, and a play date.
Life moves fast, so every second counts, especially when it comes to big decisions like buying a car. That's why searching through Navy Federal's car buying service powered by TrueCar is a perfect place to start.
Thanks, Mom!
Navy Federal can help you find and finance the right vehicle so you can go wherever life takes you. Visit NavyFederal.org/TrueCar to learn more. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA. Credit and collateral subject to approval.
It's not Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's Tuesday. Tuesday! The very first Tuesday.
New scratch-off tickets are available on the first Tuesday of every month.
Announcer said first Tuesday.
Brand new scratch-offs, brand new fun. Now from the North Carolina Education Lottery. Every first Tuesday.
Tuesday!
Must be 18 to play. Problem gambling helpline 877-718-5543.
Progressive knows when you're in your RV, you're already on vacation. That's when you become Vacation You, who just camped where there's absolutely no shade. Even though regular you burns easily. In fact, Vacation You burns too, but is too stubborn to admit it, which is why regular you gets in trouble at the dermatologist, because Vacation You doesn't do doctors. So bundle your RV with your home or auto policy and earn an automatic discount from Progressive. And spend the savings on the both of you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was gonna unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Look, I say a lot of dumb stuff. I try to keep it in front of large groups. Seems to go better that way.
Nate Bargatze, Big Dumb Eyes World Tour, Lenovo Center, July 17th and 18th. Tickets available at Ticketmaster.com.
Coming into that, we started the day at 29 in 87, and then being able to trade back and accumulate more picks and really maximize the value of our draft. So I don't think it could have gone any better than what it did.
The words of Darren York, assistant general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, just now. The draft was this past Friday and Saturday, which, by the way, big shout out to Lenovo. Lenovo, by the way, the sponsor of our studio here at 99.9 The Fan. Big shout out to Lenovo. They set us up at the Executive Center out there on their campus out there in Morrisville, and they were great hosts. The setup there was amazing. I know they were also set everything up for the Canes in their war room, their draft room, and everything like that. And it was absolutely phenomenal. So shout out to Lenovo. But Graham, a little bit of a added to the breaking news here for all our hockey fans. You hit the breaking news sounder? You got the sounder ready to go, Graham? There it is! So we said about 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, that it looked like Aaron Ekblad was going to be staying with the Florida Panthers, the defenseman, who I know some Carolina Hurricanes fans and some people were very much interested in acquiring because Canes need a right-handed defenseman to skate alongside Jacob Slavin. Well, guess what? He's not hitting the free agent market. According to Pierre LeBrun of The Athletic, as well as TSN and all the other, he's big-time hockey insider. Ekblad has agreed to an 8-year extension at $6.1 million average annual value to stay with the Cup champs in Florida. Now, in terms of some of the details regarding, again, that's from Pierre LeBrun. In terms of some of the details regarding, is there probably going to be like no movement clauses? I mean, how much do they front, in terms of signing bonuses and things along those lines? Because some of the new stuff with the collective bargaining agreement that kicks in next year, there's going to be some limits on how much signing bonus gets paid out, or in terms of if you're making, let's say, for example, $6 million a year, only 60% of that can be a signing bonus. That doesn't kick in until next year, though. So now I'm wondering, how much of this is going to be signing bonus at the beginning of each year? How much is no movement clause? Anyway, Aaron Ekblad is going to be a Florida Panther. He's sticking around with the team for the next 8 years. And at $6.1 million, that leaves the team about $5 million, Graham, in salary cap, which, hey, guess what? If you go after Brad Marchand or try to keep Brad Marchand, do you go, hey, 4 years, $5 million a year for Brad Marchand? And just keep the pack together? Literally the Rat Pack?
4 years for the Carolina Hurricanes. It feels like the window is wide open right now to try to go after that Stanley Cup. 4 years wouldn't be bad for a player like that.
No, not at all. If Ekblad is taking that kind of money, Sam Bennett could have gotten $9-10 million on the open market, but he took 8 years, $8 million a year. Aaron Ekblad probably could have got $7+ million a year on the open market, but he's willing to take 6.1. Granted, he gets the 8th year on his contract, something he wasn't going to be able to get on the open market. Whew, boy. Okay. Well, we'll dive more into this, the free agent frenzy and all that stuff as it continues here. But here on The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Graham Hill producing. At this time, we always hit the Dean's List. I'll throw a couple guys out here in the Dean's List. Graham, someone that got drafted by the Carolina Hurricanes. Charlie Serrato. Drafted by the Canes in the 2nd round out of Penn State Ice Hockey. I'm putting Penn State Ice Hockey, Graham, on the Dean's List. You know why I just say Penn State Hockey as a whole?
What's that?
They're one of the top. Not only did Charlie Serrato get drafted by the Canes, but Penn State is also one of the top contenders to land the projected number 1 pick in the 2026 draft, Gavin McKenna. It's down to Penn State and Michigan State. Like, how big of a get would it be for, if you're Penn State hockey, that, hey, we just had a guy drafted in the 2nd round in the draft to a great organization like Carolina, but then also, if you land the number 1 overall pick, or the guy who's projected to be the number 1 overall pick in 2026 as part of your program, be a heck of a get.
It's pretty heck of an endorsement for your hockey program, especially at the college level.
Absolutely. It's not Boston College. It's not Boston University. It's not North Dakota. Penn State. Also on the Dean's List, Arizona State hockey. That's right, Arizona State Ice Hockey. Cullen Potter, drafted in the 1st round, number 32 overall. A player that was actually linked to the Carolina Hurricanes potentially, who was there at 29. The Canes decided to trade back a couple times, actually. But Arizona State, who would have thought Arizona State ice hockey? Is there even ice out there in the desert? I mean, I know that's where the Arizona Coyotes used to play. Now, obviously, the Utah Mammoth. They used to actually play on their campus because of the whole rink dispute and all that kind of stuff and terrible ownership. But still, I think it's pretty awesome. Also on the Dean's list, the first college player drafted in the 2025 NHL draft, Boston College forward James Higgins. Congrats to him. You're the first collegiate guy drafted number 7 overall. By the way, I want ACC ice hockey. I'm talking not club hockey. I'm talking real. Not club hockey. I'm talking like D1 playing against the Penn States and the Boston Colleges and all that. I want that. I want that, Graham. Also on the do you have anyone for the Dean's list, Graham?
I was just going to say EA College Sports because we got the news today that EA Sports College Basketball video game has been announced with a 2028 release date reported.
Oh, that's official now? They're officially calling it? I know they teased it.
It was teased. Let me double check real quick.
So while you're looking at that, EA Sports posted an image of a basketball that had EA Sports on it. They posted this on social media, and it said, "Bring the madness back," which for a lot of people that are college football fans that love the college football video game, we had to wait about 11 years before we actually had a college football game. We obviously got that with College Football 25. The last college football game we had before that was NCAA 14.
My mistake. No release date has been officially announced.
Okay.
They're teasing it.
They're teasing it. They're teasing us, folks. Which, you know what? If you're EA, I think that's smart because an opportunity with NIL deals, which we saw with players like Quinn Ewers and some others and Travis Hunter that were part of the cover of College Football 25 as a way to promote the game. Athletes if they were willing to be part of the game, got $600 and a free copy of the game for college football. If you could do the same thing with college basketball, that'd be great. Like, try and build up, like, your March Madness team like you do. One of the fun parts about College Football 25, or just college football game in general, is that you try and take the mid-tier school, like a group of 5 or a lower-level school, and then you try and, like, build them up over years and try and, like, get to a national championship as opposed to, I'm going to be Georgia and build this program up. Like, you win the national championship in year 1. Boring. No, you go pick Tulane. Or you go pick Air Force. Heck, College Football 25, I chose App State. I chose App State as my team. And then I won a couple national championships, and I was like, all right, let me start this thing over.
There you go.
I went Bowling Green. Bowling Green.
Kennesaw State.
Yeah, beat Kennesaw State. I bet Tim Donnelly, whose name is on the show, if he gets a copy of the game, is going to be the University of Delaware when they're part of the game next season.
Even though we don't have a release date, I kind of hope that they do take their time because even though College Football 25 was a great return to the series, there were some issues that existed. I felt like some stuff was kind of missing. Maybe those issues will be resolved in 26, but the teams behind it are clearly passionate about college sports, and if they bring that passion to a college basketball game, it could be the greatest basketball game we've been waiting for to compete with 2K.
I think it'd be awesome. I think it'd be absolutely awesome. Also here on the Dean's List, Graham, the Pac-12, sort of. Now, Texas State, I know we talked about it last week briefly, but Texas State officially is now going to the Pac-12. So congrats, Pac-12. You have your 8 football schools. You have your 9th school with Gonzaga in there. Congrats, Pac-12. You're a shell of yourself, but hey, the name still lives on, Graham.
You're still breathing.
The name still lives on. All right, class dismissed on the Dean's List. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Graham Hill producing the show. Winners and losers coming up next, including Graham. You're holding up a finger here.
I was just saying I'm waiting to get the musical bell.
Oh no, it's okay. Well, we got to take a commercial break.
Okay,
here.
never mind. I forgot. We got the new clock.
I was like, is there breaking news that we're about to hit, Graham?
That's my fault. I got to be more careful about holding up a finger during the show, especially during free agency frenzy.
Well, yeah, we got free agent frenzy. And guess what? One of these teams that's not letting their players go to free agency might be a winner. Winners and losers next.
It's bow time. Something new just dropped at Bojangles. Take the bold taste of a crispy golden chicken supreme that's been seasoned to perfection, then add dill pickles, Carolina Gold barbecue sauce, and a toasted bun that's great on the go. What do you get? You get a Bo's Bird Dog. In fact, you can grab 2 of them for $5. So when you're on the go, headed to practice, or need a snack, grab a Bo's Bird Dog. Hurry in before they're gone, available for a limited time. It's bow time.
There's no time like bow time, but sometimes it's go time. No time to stop, but the perfect time for a Bojangles Bird Dog. A seasoned to perfection Bojangles Chicken Supremes, dill pickles, and Carolina Gold barbecue sauce, all tucked inside a toasted bun. Great on the go. Try 2 Bird Dogs for just $5 or 2 Bird Dog Combo for just $8.25. Available for limited time only. When you're hungry for flavor and value, it's bow time.
Coming into that, we started the day at 29 in 87, and then being able to trade back and accumulate more picks and really maximize the value of our draft. So I don't think it could have gone any better than what it did.
The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. By the way, if you miss any of the show, make sure you subscribe to the Best of the Drive podcast. That's wherever you get your podcasts. Also, make sure you go on our YouTube page, 99.9 The Fan. Just go on YouTube, search 99.9 The Fan. You leave your thoughts in the comments section of the videos that we post. You can catch up on episodes that way, like the full show. You can watch us and stream us live, so no matter where you are, you can again jump in the comments section. I know there's a lot of people out here chiming in on Mitch Marner, potentially Nikolai Ehlers, also the whole Aaron Ekblad signing, which, Graham, at this point, it's a Monday, which by the way, Monday, we will have a Monday sound off coming up in about a half hour. So around 4:15, 4:20, we will have a Monday sound off. If you want to sound off, you want to ask questions about the Canes and the offseason, about what they should do, should not do, call in. We'll give you guys the prompt for it, but that's going to be coming up in about a half hour. So we will have a Monday sound off. A little bit different time than we've had in the past, but we will have one at about 4:15, 4:20 coming up. But Graham, there's one team that's been winning a lot, and they're going to find themselves once again on the winning side of winners and losers. The winners are the Florida Panthers. Not just because they've won 2 straight Stanley Cups, Graham, but they re-signed Sam Bennett, 8 years, $8 million. The Conn Smythe winner had 15 goals. 15 goals this postseason did Sam Bennett, who is a player I would love to see in a Canes uniform. Would love it. But obviously that's not going to happen because he's re-signed with Florida. Canes need a player like Sam Bennett. A guy that produces in the postseason, scores goals in the postseason, and does the dirty work in the postseason. That's what this team needs, is a player like him. But guess what? He's sticking around in Florida. Another one of their players, Aaron Ekblad, just signed an 8-year contract extension today at just $6.1 million a year. I was talking with Adam Gold coming in. I was like, man, if he hits free agency, how does 6 times 8 sound for Ekblad? He's like, I'd probably do it. No, he just signed 8 times 6.1 to stick in Florida.
How does their front office keep getting away with it?
It's funny. People are always going to bring up it's a tax-free income state. There's no state income taxes in Florida. Now, obviously, you'll pay taxes on property and all the different. They make their money. But it's funny how being a tax-free state was never brought up when they sucked. Same with Tampa.
True.
Nashville has been terrible for much of their existence. Tennessee's a tax-free state. There's plenty of times where Dallas wasn't any good. Tax-free income state. People are going to bring that up, but I think it's the culture that's there. It's the opportunity to continue to win. And obviously, there's the security of that 8th year. I'm sure there's some things probably put in there where they can't trade, waive, or try and send him down to the minors without his, basically a no movement clause. I'm sure there's probably, I know Sam Bennett's 8-year contract, the first 5 years is a full-on no movement clause. So I don't know if that's something that's going to be in Aaron Ekblad's contract. I'm assuming there is. Or there's a hefty, he can be very controlling about where he gets traded to if they do eventually want to trade him. But if you look at Florida and all the guys that they are bringing back, and the reason why I bring this up is because they have $4.9 million in cap space sitting out there, and they could probably still re-sign Brad Marchand. But you look at Alexander Barkov, Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Reinhart, Sam Bennett, Carter Verhaeghe, Anton Lundell, those 6 guys that I just mentioned are all under contract at least through 2030, and their ages are 29, 27, 29, 29, 23. They have Evan Rodriguez and Eetu Luostarinen are also signed for the next 2 years. Jesper Boquist is also signed for the next 2 years. And a couple other guys like AJ Greer, Jonah Gadjovich, those guys are signed for, this upcoming season as well. So you already have 11 forwards rostered. And if you re-sign Brad Marchand, you can make it 12. But then they have 6 guys on defense that are under contract. Now, Nate Schmidt probably won't be back. I think he's probably earned himself a pretty hefty raise. He just played this year on a minimum. He got bought up by the Winnipeg Jets a couple years ago. Played this year on $800,000 contract. Was great in the playoffs. He's probably going to get paid to go somewhere else. But Seth Jones, Aaron Ekblad, Gustav Forsling, Dmitry Kulikov, these guys are all under contract for at least the next 3 years.
I mean, just like that, unless some really crazy stuff happens in free agency, which I'm sure it will, but the Florida Panthers, I wanted to say the Carolina Hurricanes, hopefully, but the Florida Panthers, just like that, are set up for another Stanley Cup title next season.
Bobrovsky's under contract this upcoming year as well. They traded for a backup goalie in Danilo Tarasov, who was going to be a restricted free agent. So, I mean, they do got a couple other depth guys that they still have to sign and fill out their roster. But, I mean, depending on what Brad Marchand's willing to take, they could even go sign another guy possibly if Brad Marchand doesn't work. But this Florida Panthers team, which is the standard right now, they've won 2 straight Stanley Cups and been to 3 in a row. The core of their team is locked up for the next 3 years, basically. Intact the way it was the team that just won. Obviously, the exception of Marchand, depending on what happens. But pretty much their team they're set to win for the next 4 or 5 years. Probably set to win for probably the next, let's safely say 4. That's what Carolina has to look at. So, yeah, winners and losers. Winner, Florida Panthers. Good Lord. It's amazing what they've been able to piece together. Also winners, I'm going to go ahead and say it tomorrow, or it's going to be tomorrow, Graham, but winners, NHL free agents. With so many guys like Aaron Ekblad not hitting the open market, guys like Mitch Marner, Mikael Granlund, some of these other guys that might be hitting the free agent market, a guy named Pia Suter from Vancouver, because the free agency pool is not very deep, and teams have all this extra cap space because the cap's jumped up $7.5 million. Well, guess what? These guys are going to get paid.
Go get your money. Why not?
So, yeah, winners. If you're a free agent tomorrow, you're probably going to get paid. Which brings me to the losers, Graham. The teams that overpay for these free agents.
Hopefully the Hurricanes are not one of them.
I don't think so. I think Carolina's relatively smart when it comes to those kinds of things. Relatively. Not saying all their contracts have been perfect, but they're generally a team that doesn't overpay. But Carolina, I know Corey Lavalette actually, who writes for the North State Journal as well, The Athletic, actually wrote something pretty awesome in The Athletic today about Carolina's time. If they can't really land a big free agent or two tomorrow, or even just one, whether it's a Nikolai Ehlers or a Brock Besser or whomever it might be, is that their moves, their trades, they're probably going to have to go trade to get somebody and improve their team. It's likely going to be the route that they go. And that is probably going to take place at some point during the season because there are going to be some teams that feel like they have the opportunity to actually make moves that aren't going to be able to actually, or I guess I should say this again. There's going to be some teams that spend money and make moves for free agents this offseason that are going to realize 2 months into the year, oh, we're not as good as we thought. Let's start trading and getting some future assets. Graham, you go and pull up that clip from Erik Tulsky about how teams are looking for players in trades. Let me know when you got that. So actually, general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, Erik Tulsky, said this on Friday about, this was after the first round of the draft, is that he said his phone was active. But in terms of making trades for players, in terms of, hey, we'll give you multiple draft picks and maybe a prospect for a player, teams really aren't interested in that right now. Here's what Erik Tulsky had to say.
Almost every team in the league right now is looking to get better. And most years you have a few teams that are deep into rebuilds or starting rebuilds and are willing to move some of their veterans for picks. And this year, almost every team is saying if they move a player, they want players back. And that makes it hard to get deals done because everyone's trying to either, if everyone's trying to add to their team, there's sort of, we can't all add. It's hard to do a trade where both sides add. And so, I think that more than anything else has sort of slowed down the market right now. It's just everybody's looking to do the same thing at once.
So that makes, again, you'd heard Erik Tulsky say it, things can be a little bit more difficult in terms of trading for players. If you want a player, let's say, again, I'll bring this up. If you want to go get Tage Thompson from Buffalo, which, hey, I would love Tage Thompson as a center on this team, on the Carolina Hurricanes, it's going to have to cost you a current player. It's going to have to cost you a player in terms of, it might cost you an Andrei Svechnikov to do that. That's just kind of how it's going to work. If I want a player, Graham, I have to give up somebody too. Are you willing to do that? That's the question. That's a big-time question. Also, for winners and losers, the WNBA, they're expanding 3 teams over the next several seasons. Cleveland's going to get a team in 2028. Detroit's going to get a team in 2029. And Philadelphia getting a team in 2030, which I'm excited for this because the league is so small in terms of number of teams already, and there are just a lot of great players that just can't make a roster simply just because the talent is just too deep.
I mean, it's half the size of the NBA, right?
Oh, I think it's like slightly less than that. I think it might be 12 teams, but I think it's expanding up to 15, maybe it's 16. But that's where this league is right now. It's just such a small league in terms of number of teams that, hey, guess what? Adding more teams is going to allow more players to actually play significant roles, but also, again, just have a roster spot. There's a lot of women's basketball talent out there that's just not in the WNBA because they simply can't do it. Real quick here, winner, Graham. Roger McQueen, Anaheim Ducks draft pick. Drafted in the top 10 this past Friday. My apologies. The Anaheim Ducks, they said this during the draft. I don't know if anyone saw this on Friday, but the draft was in Los Angeles at the Peacock Theater in L.A., and Anaheim, obviously, right down the road. So the Ducks said, hey, we got a helicopter for you, Robert McQueen, you and your family. There's a chopper waiting outside for you. We're taking you to Disney right now. So he literally had to walk out of the arena, hops on a helicopter, gets flown down to Disney, and they're like, yeah, we got a place for you to stay tonight and at Disney and all that stuff. Get to enjoy Disney for a day.
What if he stayed at the Anaheim Ducks themed resort?
I don't know.
I know some Disney parks have the replica of the Mighty Ducks and stuff.
Yeah, maybe he did. I'm not entirely sure. But you know what he did? You know he's part of Disney, the movie franchise Cars.
Yep.
It's part of Pixar. It's all part of Disney. You know what number Roger McQueen chose to wear he chose as his number?
95.
95, just like Lightning McQueen from Cars.
Ka-chow.
Love it. Exactly, ka-chow. Going to end it right there on the ka-chow. It's the Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. If there's any more breaking news regarding the NHL, if the Canes make a move, we're gonna keep you updated, folks. Anything big regarding the NHL, regarding the Carolina Hurricanes, we got you here. So stay locked in today, locked in tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday. We got you, fam. So make sure you stay locked in. Football at 4 is coming up. How were Dan Morgan, the general manager of the Carolina Panthers, and Erik Tulsky, the general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, behaving in similar ways, in a positive way? We'll discuss that. Football at 4 next.
Breaking news, and this one is almost unbelievable.
Yeah, it's all about new customers at Bet365 because they get $150 in bonus bets when they bet $5, win or lose. And even better, bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, and player props.
There you have it. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. And see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in North Carolina. Gambling problem? Call 1-877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. T&Cs apply. Available in app only.
Find what you love and love what you find. A Total Wine and More, the place to go for sipping rosés with seltzers on ice. All kinds of beers with more reasons for cheers. It's warm out, let's go. Our prices are low on all our beers and wines. You're gonna find what you love and love what you find.
Only at Total Wine and More. Drink responsibly. B21.
Discover the 4th of July sale at Target. Save 20% on clothing and swimwear for women, select cookies with Target Circle, and up to 50% off Sun Squat sporting goods. Get ready for a fireworks-worthy celebration with patriotic cookies, fun sports gear, and of course, spectacular fits. The deal's end July 5th, so hurry and get 20% off apparel, select cookies with Target Circle, and 50% off Sun Squad sports gear, only at Target. Restrictions apply.
You gotta dip your chicken strips. Hey, this is Kiani.
And this is Tabitha.
And a little thing we love about Chick-fil-A chicken strips
is all the different sauces we can dip them in. I like to line up all my favorite sauces so that in every bite, I have a different flavor. Then with the tenderness of the chicken, the juiciness of it, it's all there.
And for me, I like to mix my sauces so I get a little tang and I get a little sweetness all in one bite.
That's what makes it for me. Like, that's what does it for me.
That's what I'm saying.
It's the summer of Chick-fil-A chicken strips and sauces. Order now on the Chick-fil-A app. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
I'm attorney Brian Ritchie. Getting hurt in a car wreck comes with all kinds of stress and frustration. But when you call me, I'll be on top of all of it. So all you need to worry about is getting better. If you've been injured in a car wreck, I'm on top of it. Contact us at ritchielaw.com.
Broadcasting live from the Lenovo Studios. WCMC HD1 Holly Springs. 99.9 The Fan. The Triangle Sports Leader.
Middle of the day, it's hot out there already. Temperatures then in the mid-90s this afternoon with isolated downpours. Overnight, we're in the mid-70s, a 20% chance. Tuesday, low 90s for highs, prior to a likelihood of showers and storms later in the day. I'm meteorologist Chris Michaels in the WRAL Severe Weather Center.
Weather update brought to you by Newcomb & Company, where your comfort is their business. Visit newcombandcompany.com. 4 o'clock check of your money. Dow Jones up 274 points at 44,094.
Let's move the chains. Time for Football at 4.
Football at 4 here on the Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. By the way, if any breaking news happens in the NHL, we're going to cut in. I know Graham is refreshing the feeds and all that kind of stuff. If we get any sort of notification from the Canes or anybody about any, or just any big moves in the NHL, trust me, we will keep you up to date. Coming up here in about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, we will have a Monday Soundoff. I know a lot of people are kind of going back in the comments section, back and forth, about some potential players and some other moves that are happening in the league here on our YouTube live chat, which feel free to jump in, be part of that conversation. But I was sitting at the Lenovo campus out there in Morrisville, the Lenovo Executive Center, which is where the Carolina Hurricanes had their draft this weekend. And I was sitting there on Friday, and I was thinking about how Erik Tulsky was moving down in the draft, and then even on Saturday, seeing him moving down in the draft, about how they started the day on Friday with a first-round pick, a third-round pick, a fourth-round pick, and then a couple sixth and a seventh. So half of their picks going into the draft were 6th and 7th round picks. They only came in with 6 picks. But they walked out with 7 picks, 2 of them coming in the 3rd round, 3 of them in the 2nd round, and then a couple, like another 6th and a 7th round pick. So they end up getting 5 picks in rounds 2 and 3. So again, finding value, finding market inefficiencies. And I think this is where general managers, even though the sports are different, can still learn from one another. I think this is where we saw the Charlotte Hornets, for example, make 4 picks on the NBA draft just the other day, or middle of last week. They made 4 picks total. They traded Mark Williams and got a late first-round pick to get a Liam McNeely and draft him 29, getting Con Knipple at 4, getting a guy like Sion James, then getting Ryan Kalkbrenner as well in the 2nd round as well. Guys that can help fill roles and raise the floor of your team moving forward, as that franchise is still trying to find its way. But I was thinking about this for Football 4 for the Carolina Panthers and what Dan Morgan has been doing with the team in terms of finding value for players in different ways, like finding in the margins, where can we get a little bit better? Finding, again, like the Carolina Hurricanes do with drafting Russian players because it's a market inefficiency. Hey, we're going to get a player that has first-round talent that teams are afraid to touch because of whatever reason. Like, again, it's hard and difficult getting Russian players to come over to play in North America. It's not an easy thing to do. Not all players, even if they are drafted, are willing to actually come over here as they get older. Carolina isn't afraid to go after those guys. That's why they have an Alexander Nikishin on their team coming in. They're not afraid to go after those guys. And I think this is where Dan Morgan can learn and find some different things about players that they draft, or find undrafted players where they can really find that value. I think of, for example, Jalen Coker going into his 2nd year with the Carolina Panthers this year. Probably going to be their 4th wide receiver, but after this upcoming year can grow into being a number 3 wide receiver for the team. He was an undrafted free agent last year out of Holy Cross. Again, undrafted free agent. Now, the 2024 draft class, Graham, if you remember correctly, was deep at wide receiver. Xavier Legette was a first-round pick at pick number 32. He was the 7th wide receiver taking in that first draft, in that first round. The 7th.
I want to say quarterbacks too, right? Well, I mean, quarterbacks always kind of pretty.
I mean, yeah, there were
pretty
6 quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round of 2024 as well. So Carolina was able to recognize something in Jalen Coker about, okay, well, he doesn't quite have the foot speed. He ran like a 4.56 or 4.57 40-yard dash. But we know that his route running is great, and he has great hands, and he can still, even though he doesn't have elite speed, can still get separation from players. That's a player that we can target, and they definitely targeted as an undrafted free agent. I actually did talk to a couple people that they felt that if the wide receiver class in 2024 wasn't so deep, that he probably would have been a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick. Like he would have been a late day 3 pick. But because that there's so much depth that he fell into the category of the undrafted, and sure enough, Carolina was able to swoop in. And at times last year, Graham, when Adam Thielen was banged up, Xavier Legette was struggling, was also dealing through some injuries himself, there were some stretches where it felt like Jalen Coker was like the number 1 guy. So you found value. Yeah, you know what? This guy might lack one thing, but he has all these other qualities that we really do like. Other teams might be afraid because he lacks the quote-unquote speed, but we like his size, we like his hands, and his ability to still separate on intermediate routes. That's a player that we can find value in. Like the Carolina Hurricanes, how many times have we seen guys get drafted? Hey, that's a great elite skater, highly skilled, might be a little bit undersized. Or first-round talent has like one of the defensemen they drafted from Russia. 6'3", 190 pounds, 18-year-old that can still grow. First-round talent, but because he's stuck there in Russia, teams are afraid to draft him. So this is where I feel like Dan Morgan, at least over the last couple of years, especially when we saw it on the Panthers blueprint that came out last month or so, about a month or so ago. Panthers blueprint is a video series that the Carolina Panthers themselves put out on like YouTube and social media. It's basically their behind the scenes. Now it's like, state-run media, but it's their behind the scenes look at the NFL draft and free agency and those kinds of things, training camp. So it's like their own controlled stuff, but we saw how they used analytics in different ways in order to determine what they were doing in the draft. Like they literally had sitting right behind Dan Morgan over his left shoulder was like an analytics guy who was going over all these different scenarios of, hey, if we stick at this pick, the way the draft has been going, knowing the tendencies and needs of all these other teams that are drafting ahead of us, what's the percentage likelihood that one of these two players is going to be there? And the guy was like, 44%. Okay, 44%, that's not a high enough odds for us. Let's make a move up. And then finding value in moving up in the draft in terms of not overpaying for that pick. Or vice versa. Hey, if we stay here at this pick, what are the odds that one of these two guys are going to be there? Just over 50%. Okay, if it's 50-50, we'll stay here. Let's keep track of these odds and all that stuff. Finding market value or getting a team to overpay. We even saw was the LA Rams, Graham. We're looking to move up from pick 26 to pick 8 in the draft. My guess is they're going to look to take a quarterback. Generally, you don't move from 26 to 8 unless you're going to go take a QB.
Yep.
My guess. My guess is probably going to be Jackson Dart. Either way. They showed how Carolina was like, we're willing to move if you give us X amount. We're not going to settle for anything less than what we're asking for because we feel like this is too valuable. Because there's also the value of, hey, you know what? We're picking 8. Let's just take a guy that we feel could be a dude.
And it felt like the Chargers were kind of taken back by that because they
the Rams
up,
were, yeah.
Or the Rams, excuse me.
Yeah.
The Rams were taken back by that because they hung up the phone, and then it came down like to the very last, I think with a minute left on the board.
Yeah, a minute or two left.
Minute or two left before they finally called back, and we're like, we're not doing that. And then Carolina just pulled the trigger.
Yeah, Carolina's like, okay, fine. You're not willing to pay our price? Cool. And he literally just see Dan Morgan go, oh, they're out? Okay, cool. T-Mac.
Yep.
Literally says it, and everyone's like, all right, we got the guy. But that's where Carolina, I feel like, is trying to continue to find value. Because remember, going into the 2024 draft, Carolina didn't have a first-round pick, and they only, I think, had 6 picks going in because they got a second-round pick for the part of the Brian Burns trade. They had 2 seconds and all that. Well, they walked away with 7 picks, 1 in each round. They maneuvered and manipulated up and down the draft to try and figure out what they wanted. And I think that's where Dan Morgan, I think, is really growing as a general manager. And we've seen that. And we've seen that with the Carolina Hurricanes over the last several years about how well they've built their roster. Like, let's call it what it is. The Carolina Hurricanes have built a tremendous roster. And one of the things that Carolina Panthers are doing with their free agent signings is, hey, we're not necessarily going out and getting the biggest name, but we're going to find guys that fit our system that still have growth potential. Like a lot of the free agents that they signed this offseason were guys that were 25, 26 years old, have played 4 years in the NFL, still have growth potential because they're still entering their prime years, and guys that actually fit the system that they want to do, especially on the defensive front. That's what they did this offseason. And it's like, oh, you know what? Someone might not pay as much as us or might not see the value that we see in this player. Let's go get that player that's still ascending that can grow with us in our system and flourish in our system. I think that's what Dan Morgan is really starting to do. And I think that's why you're starting to see a lot of the national pundits, Graham, are like, hey, sleeper team, Carolina Panthers. Hey, sleeper team, Panthers. Hey, who could sneak into the playoffs as a 7 seed? Hey, why not Carolina? All those different kinds of things. Finding the value that others may not see or taking advantage of market inefficiencies. That's where Carolina can do. The Panthers can do that. We've seen the Carolina Hurricanes do that, which we're going to discuss, obviously, a little bit more of hockey coming up because there's a lot going on in the NHL world. All right, folks, Dennis Cox here for my friends over at Loan Pronto. Folks, are you maxed out on credit cards? Maybe you're struggling with high-interest debt. You can pay it all off in days with Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. Get cash out now without touching your low-rate first mortgage. No appraisals, no waiting, no BS. The Rapid Equity Loan program at Loan Pronto is amazing. One Loan Pronto client just got $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. They paid off debt, renovated their kitchen, and cut their monthly expenses by $1,800. $1,800. It's a massive turnaround. Loan Pronto, instant approvals, low rates, no hard credit pool up front. Here's the thing, folks. Your home equity, it's yours. Use it. Get cash to consolidate your debt down to one easy, low monthly payment. Call Loan Pronto now for a free instant appraisal for your home and see how much cash you can get today. Loan Pronto is A+ rated by the BBB and have nearly 2,500 five-star Google reviews. Their service, it's off the charts. Call now to start the conversation. 919-381-1760. LoanPronto.com. 919-381-1760. Get debt relief now. LoanPronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 1661781 on approved credit. NMLSconsumeraccess.org. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Graham Hill producing the show. Graham, you and I are going to do a little bets, a little bit of ladder challenge here today. But also, folks, coming up here in about 10 minutes. Actually, less than that. 7 minutes away. Monday Soundoff. You got questions about the Canes? You want to sound off on some other stuff? Call in. We're going to have a Monday Soundoff as well as ladder challenge coming up next. Hey, folks, Dennis Cox here for my friends over at Loan Pronto. Are you maxed out on credit cards? Maybe you're struggling with high-interest debt. You can pay it all off in days with Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. Get cash out now without touching your low-rate first mortgage. No appraisals, no waiting, no BS. The Rapid Equity Loan program at Loan Pronto is amazing. One Loan Pronto client just got $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. They paid off debt, renovated their kitchen, and cut their monthly expenses by $1,800. That's a massive turnaround. Loan Pronto, instant approvals, low rates, no hard credit pool up front. Listen, your home equity, it's yours. Use it. Get cash to consolidate your debt down to one easily low monthly payment. Call Loan Pronto now for a free instant appraisal for your home and see how much cash you can get today. Call now to get the conversation started. 919-381-1760. LoanPronto.com. 919-381-1760. Get debt relief now. LoanPronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 1661781 on approved credit. NMLSconsumeraccess.org. Hey, Carolina Panthers fans, it's Dennis Cox from 99.9 The Fan. We're in the offseason, but it doesn't mean me and my co-host, WREL TV's Chris Lee, take a break from our podcast, Panthers Playbook. In every episode, we'll keep you up to date on Panthers news as training camp approaches, insights on the rookies, the free agents, and the surprises, plus all the insider info on the upcoming season. Follow and subscribe to Panthers Playbook wherever you discover your favorite podcasts or watch on YouTube.
When it comes to restoring cars, Diego's got skills. And with Total Wireless in his corner, the whole world sees them. With the dual camera system on his new iPhone 13, he can take amazing car photos and post them on the fly with super fast 5G, and even turn this hobby into a full-time gig. His claim to fame? Claiming iPhone 13 with 5G on us. Get iPhone 13 with 5G on us when you switch to the Total 5G or 5G Plus Unlimited 3-month plan. Total Wireless, in your corner. For limited time while supplies last. Valid in store. Device taxes and fees may apply. Requires port in and ID verification. Restrictions apply.
If Heineken Silver was a 60-second radio ad, it'd tell you all the stuff you need to know in only 30 seconds to keep things light and refreshing. Seriously, time me. Heineken Silver, a world-class light beer that's surprisingly crisp and refreshing. Made with only premium quality ingredients and just 2.9 grams of carbs and 95 calories. All without compromising on taste. Heineken Silver. Order now at Heineken.com/silver. Must be 21 and older to purchase. Enjoy Heineken responsibly. Whew. 30 seconds. That's it. Done. Peace.
Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price, you want the lowest price. And with our lowest price guarantee, you can count on us for competitive prices on all your home improvement projects. If you find a qualifying lower price somewhere else on the same item, we'll match it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Price match applies the same item, current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
So Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Coming up here at 4:20, folks. So less than 5 minutes away. We will have the phone lines open for a Monday sound off. But until then, Graham, we had to do a little ladder challenge. You and I are together here for the next 3 days. Max will be in. Let's just do it today. You and I each, just $10 bet. 2 $10 bets. We'll see who comes out with the most money tomorrow, and we'll declare the winner for the day. So normally in our ladder challenge, it's Tim and myself going at it. Basically, who has the most money at the end of the month. We start at $10. We have a betting odds limit or range that we have to bet within, and then whoever has the most money at the end of the month. Well, Tim and I weren't together very much for the month of June, Graham, because of vacations, and I was also sick for a hot second. But nonetheless, Tim and I actually had one final bet each to make this past Friday, Graham. He bet on the New York Mets to win a baseball game, which I'm like, wow, you're betting on the Mets to do something for you? Bad decision. The Mets lost. Well, I also had the Red Sox to win a game. They lost. So we both finished this month, Graham, even.
So where does the trophy stand?
I mean, I think the trophy.
We got to put it like right here.
We buy just somewhere in between the both of us. I don't know, but here's the thing: I was the one that last held the trophy for the ladder challenge victory. I've won 5 of 7 months.
So you get the tiebreaker.
I guess, yeah. It's just hey, the cup. The cup stays home, right? Like the Florida Panthers over here, just keep winning. But anyway, you and I are going to place 2 $10 bets. Graham, I'll let you go ahead and start. What's your first bet for the day?
My 2 bets are going to be in baseball, and I'm going to choose from the same game, actually, San Diego Padres at the Philadelphia Phillies.
Okay.
Giving Nick Castellanos over 1.5 total bases plus 105, has hit in 4 of the Phillies' last 4 home games.
Okay. I'm going to go, this is the Club World Cup. The FIFA Club World Cup is taking place. Man City is taking on Al Hilal. I think it's from Kazakhstan. Give me Erling Haaland, their big-time goal scorer. Anytime goal scored. Actually, you know what? First goal scored today at plus 290. Plus 290 for that first bet. What's your next one?
San Diego Padres, Phillies once again. Kyle Schwarber of the Phillies over 1.5 total bases as well, plus 100. I'm going plus money today. I'm feeling dangerous.
Hey, why not, right?
Has hit in 4 of 5 of the Phillies' last game, 10 of their last 13 games against the Padres, and 3 of their last 4 home games.
Okay, my final one here. The Yankees are on the road taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Aaron Judge, anytime home run, plus 165. Pretty simple.
It's hard to argue against that.
Aaron Judge, anytime home run, plus 165.
That's like a Saquon Barkley plus anytime touchdown score.
Yeah, basically. Wow, Patrick Mahomes is going to throw for a touchdown. But hey, get it at plus money while you can. I don't hate it. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Graham, let's go and open up the phone lines for the people for a little Monday sound off. 919-860-5326. Again, 919-860-5326. Phone lines are open for a Monday sound off. You want to sound off on Canes. You want to sound off on anything. Monday sound off. We are open for you. Again, phone lines are open. 919-860-5326. That is the number to call. By the way, I know some people are in our YouTube live chat real quick, Graham. I know some people that are, I know as you're answering the phones and all that kind of stuff right now. But, again, phone lines are open. Monday sound off, 919-860-5326. I know some people are a little bit torn on Mitch Marner. And, for example, D. Ely says, hey, go after Brad Marchand. Canes need to get a little bit tougher, which, hey, I'm 100% okay with that. The Carolina Hurricanes do need to get tougher. I would love to see Brad Marchand in the Carolina Hurricane uniform. I just don't know if this is a place that he's willing to go. If Carolina is a place that Brad Marchand wants to get to. By the way, phone lines again are open, 919-860-5326. Would you want Graham? Would you want Brad Marchand?
Obviously, I'd like to. He's just the ultimate player when he's not wearing your sweater and you're playing against him. He's the kind of player that you hate. But when he's on your team, you got to love him. The only thing is, I don't know if he would immediately want to go away from the Florida Panthers, come to a team like the Carolina Hurricanes. Not that I don't think he'd fit the culture. I just think, realistically, why would you then want to try to go up against the team that you just won a Stanley Cup with, realistically, in the Eastern Conference Final, if the Hurricanes are able to get back there once again?
Yeah, I think that the Carolina Hurricanes, if they could get Brad Marchand, they would absolutely love to. I think they would absolutely love to get him, but I don't know if that is going to be something that's really reasonable. Again, phone lines are open, 919-860-5326. Monday Soundoff, 919-860-5326. And I have seen, I've seen this floated around, Graham. There's one of our guys that's a listener that follows us online, D. Ely, says, a guy that the Carolina Hurricanes should look to be their number 2 center is Ryan Suzuki. Now, Ryan Suzuki was actually issued a qualifying offer by the Carolina Hurricanes. He was a restricted free agent. So earlier today, the Carolina Hurricanes issued qualifying offers for 5 players who are restricted free agents: Skylar Brindamore, Dominic Fensori, Noah Gunler, Ronan Seeley, and Ryan Suzuki. Now, some players that weren't, by the way, of the 5, 3 of them are actually eligible for arbitration: Brindamore, Fensori, as well as Suzuki. So if they want to elect to go to salary arbitration as opposed to take the qualifying offer, it's their right to do so as players. There were some players like Ty Smith, Yaniv Peretz, and Tony Honka were not issued qualifying offers by the Carolina Hurricanes. They were not. But I've seen this from a couple people saying, why not make Ryan Suzuki your team's number 2 center? Why not bring him up to be your team's number 2? He was a first-round draft pick several years ago. He's dealt with some crazy injuries. Like, he had an eye injury that he suffered in a game in juniors years ago, which actually left him with like a partial blind spot, like in his eye. So like he does have a blind spot, even though he's still playing. There is a little bit of a blind spot in his vision. But he's just kind of dealt with some other injuries and stuff. But here's the thing I will say about Ryan Suzuki and the team. If the Carolina Hurricanes thought that he could be their number 2 center, then he would already be this team's number 2 center. Like, he already would have been brought up last year. Even during the playoffs last year, they didn't even bring him up to be one of the Black Aces for the team. He wasn't part of that. I don't think he is part of this team's future plans. I know you can bring up some of the numbers that he brought up in the American Hockey League. I understand it. But Ryan Suzuki, in my mind, if this team thought that he could be a number 2 center, then he would already be a number 2 center on this team, or at least would be an everyday regular NHL player. I don't think he's part of the team's future in that regard. Depth in the organization, sure. But I don't think that Ryan Suzuki is not your answer as your number 2 center. He's just not. Otherwise, there are plenty of teams last year. Like, a team right now, I bet off the qualifying offer, could go sign him for like $1 million on an offer sheet. Wouldn't cost you any draft picks. Carolina might not even match it. Go for it. If you feel like he could be a top 3 center on your team, but no team's done that. Like, I would say it's like, what is the league telling you about a player? And it's simply that. All right, let's go to the phone lines again. They are open, 919-860-5326 for a Monday Soundoff. Let's get into our good friend Micah from Mooresville. Wants to talk a little bit of NHL free agency and the Canes. Micah, sound off, my man.
Hey, Dennis. Yeah, I would say kind of scary what the Panthers are doing, but credit to them. I think the Canes, you've hit on it a lot, but I don't think, this is my personal take, but I don't think Ehlers is going to move the needle at all. I really did want Mitch Marner, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But even if we do get Ehlers and we're going to overpay because that's just how the market's looking, we're going to need to add more. And it has to be size. I think they need to look for Anthony Mantha. Not many people have talked about him. That's a big body. He's coming off an injury. He's 6'5". He's heavy. He would help. I also think they could look at, I think Tanner Jeannot is also a free agent, I believe. But they need to add, some thick bodies that can, intimidate the Panthers, because we bring the same team back, the Panthers are going to just laugh at us and beat us again. So, yeah, we can add Ehlers, but we do need to look at one big body forward like that. And they can also put the puck in the net too. So I think those are some two names that I think that we should look at. I'm not sure if they will, but I think those could bring some value.
Stay on the line, Micah, because I want to bring this up for you. Here's my one thing about Anthony Mantha. You mentioned has the injury. He actually tore his ACL about 13 games into the year this past year for Calgary. He's 30 years old, going on 31. The guy that's only had a 20-goal season just twice in the last 5 years, Anthony Mantha. The reason why I would say I would actually push back on a guy like Mantha, Micah, is because this team already has a bunch of bottom six wingers already on their team. We got Marner, you've got Robinson, you've got Carrier, guys that are not afraid to play a heavy game. I think they already have a plethora of those kinds of guys, Micah. I don't know if that kind of guy, even a Tanner Jeannot, I understand you want grit and stuff, but Tanner Jeannot this past season scored 7 goals. This isn't the 21-22 Nashville Predator Tanner Jeannot, who had like one good year and that's it. Like the Canes already have these kinds of guys.
I get it, but then you could also make the same argument about how we have like 4 Ehlers size-wise, and I guess stats-wise, not really. I would make an argument that we have like 3 or 4 Ehlers-sized wingers in the top 6: Jarvis, Stankoven, probably Bradley Nadeau, Jackson Blake. Like they haven't proven themselves, but they're going to be those type of players. So I don't know. There's an argument on both sides, I think, but I get what you mean on the big guys not bringing that many goals to the lineup, but I do think they have a type of grit that the bottom 6 currently doesn't have, minus Carrier.
Yeah, Carrier. Robinson can play a physical game. He can obviously skate super well, but Ehlers he's listed at 6 foot 172, which is a similar build to Sebastian Aho. So you're right in terms of that build, but this is a guy who's been a consistent 20-plus goal scorer in his career, which is something that the Carolina Hurricanes right now only have 3 guys that are 20-plus goal scorers on their team. It's Jarvis, it's Aho, and it's Svechnikov. That's all that's out there. And obviously Jack Roslovic was this past year, but Roslovic's not coming back, and Roslovic scored 12 of his 22 goals in the first 20 games last year. So, again, it's a player that was built very similarly. I think that Ehlers might be a guy that gets brought in because analytics-wise, like his puck possession numbers and the way he's able to carry the puck into the zone, which is something that Erik Tulsky has talked about, and when he was writing for SB Nation years ago about advanced numbers and analytics about puck entries into the zone, the way you're able to carry the puck, Nikolai Ehlers fits that. He's kind of like us, I guess you could say like Martin Necas in that regard. But I will say this, though, is that at least Nikolai Ehlers, like this past season in 8 games for Winnipeg in the playoffs, scored 5 goals in 8 games in the playoffs for Winnipeg. So, at least this guy has actually scored somewhat in the postseason, but I don't know. Nikolai Ehlers, to me, I'm with you, Micah, doesn't fully move the needle for me either. But yeah, big shout out to Micah for calling in. Again, phone lines are open, 919-860-5326, 919-860-5326. We're going to talk actually at 4:45 about some potential trade targets and some numbers that people can go into to try and get. Again, phone numbers 919-860-5326. Phone lines are open here for a Monday Sound Off. The Nikolai Ehlers one is really, I could see it potentially happening. Now, it would add scoring to your top 6, like your top 6 forwards. It would add scoring. But I think the big concern for me, and this is a concern for a lot of Carolina Hurricanes fans, does he have that physical toughness that's required from their top 6? Now, I understand what Micah was saying about bottom 6 players. Like, Martinuk's not afraid to throw his weight around. William Carrier is not afraid to throw his weight around. Mark Jankowski's not afraid to throw his weight around. Neither is Jordan Staal. Like, the bottom 6 guys are bottom 6 guys. The thing that separates Florida, the Panthers, from everyone else in the league is that they're gritty guys that we know of, the Matthew Tkachuks of the world, also produce and score. Brad Marchand also produces and scores. Sam Bennett also produces and scores. Like, these guys aren't afraid to do the dirty work. Oh, but they also happen to be top 6 forwards in terms of just their point production.
Yeah, they're not just the quote-unquote enforcers. They're also the guys that, like in a pivotal key moment during a Stanley Cup playoff game, that when they have the puck on their stick, everybody kind of clenches up a little bit or holds their breath because they know that they can do damage as well on both the forecheck but also on the attack.
they're not afraid to get under your skin.
No.
And I think, Nikolai Ehlers might be, they need a shoot-first player. Like, Sebastian Aho is I'm a playmaking guy. I'm going to look to set up other guys. Seth Jarvis isn't afraid to shoot. Andrei Svechnikov, when he is at his best, is when he has a shoot-first mentality. Now, he sees himself as a playmaker, but when he has a shoot-first mentality, can be an excellent goal scorer. We saw it in the first couple rounds of the playoffs, where he wasn't afraid to just let it fly and just shoot. We saw too many times in the postseason the Carolina Hurricanes were trying to make the perfect play. This is also just a mentality thing, that they were trying to make the perfect play or trying to make too great of a play, as opposed to just, hey, I got the puck in the high slot, shoot it. Put it on net. Shoot it around the screen. Whatever it is you got to do to get the puck towards the net. I think we saw the Carolina Hurricanes last season pass that up too much. But the thing about like a Matthew Tkachuk, Matthew Tkachuk is 6'2", 202 pounds. Svechnikov is like built the same way, pretty much. But what separates, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, is that Matthew Tkachuk is everything that you want Andrei Svechnikov to be.
Correct.
Because Matthew Tkachuk isn't afraid to get under your skin. He's going to piss you off if you're on the other team. But guess what he does? He produces. He scores. His last year in Calgary, he had 42 goals and 62 assists. His first year with the Florida Panthers, in 79 games, he had 40 goals and 69 assists. It's a nice season. He had 109 points. Now, he's been a little bit banged up over the last couple of years, some deep playoff runs, but 2 years ago in 23-24, when they first won the Cup, he played 80 games, production took a little bit of a dip, but he was still a 26-goal, 62-assist guy. This past season, he played 52 games, had the groin injury that he suffered in the Four Nations tournament. He had 22 goals and 35 assists. That's 57 points in 52 games. That's better than a point per game, which is what you want Andrei Svechnikov to become. Even in the postseason, he had 23 points in 23 games, did Matthew Tkachuk. And that was coming off of that injury. Last year in the postseason, he had 22 points in 24 games. When they made the Cup run in their first time back in 23, now they didn't win the Stanley Cup, but they obviously got to the Cup Finals. He had 24 points in 20 games. He had 11 goals and 13 assists. And he's not afraid to be a jerk. That's the thing that separates Florida from everyone else in their league, is that the guys who are jerks also score.
They're like the modern-day bad boy Pistons of the NHL right now.
Yeah, to an extent, yeah. And guess what? They know they can score because, hey, you want to try and play rough with us? Fine. We'll do that, but then we'll also match you skill for skill. I think that's what Carolina misses, that they miss the guy that can be the jerk. By the way, phone lines are still open. Monday Soundoff, 919-860-5326. They need someone that can be a jerk on the top six that can also score. Like, grittiness doesn't have... We associate grittiness with just, like, bottom six wingers and forwards, that guys that play on the fourth line that just throw their bodies around and throw fists and fight. Like, grittiness can come from a guy like Sam Bennett, who isn't afraid to get under your skin, play on the edge of dirty, but also score 15 goals in the postseason and be the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. I mean, Brad Marchand, how many goals did he score in the Cup Finals alone? Was it 7?
Yeah.
He was phenomenal. And he's like the king rat. That's what Carolina's missing. Sam Bennett in the postseason, again, scored 15 goals. 13 of them, Graham, came on the road. On the road.
You know, we saw half of them at like the Lenovo Center.
Yeah, I know.
The first 2 games of the Eastern Conference Final.
Dude kept scoring. He just kept scoring. And that is something, again, that Carolina needs. They need that grit that's going to be on the top six. I would love, obviously, a guy like Jason Robertson. Talk about a guy that can score. They need more guys that can score on this team. But finding the guy that has that combination of both grit and scoring ability, it's hard to find. There's a reason why that the Matthew Tkachuk trade for the Florida Panthers to the Calgary Flames a few years ago included a 100-point scorer in Jonathan Huberdeau. Again, they traded a 100-point scorer who had a letter on his jersey as a part of of their leadership group, got traded from Florida to Calgary, along with Mackenzie Weegar, one of their top defensemen, and multiple first-round picks. Heck, you know what pick number 32 this year was? Was picked by Calgary because it was part of the Matthew Tkachuk trade from Florida. That was Florida's pick, and ended up being Calgary ended up making that pick because it was part of the Tkachuk trade.
Not that Florida really needed it anyways.
No, I mean, it's been 100% worth it for them. But they were willing to give up such a top-end guy like Jonathan Huberdeau and one of their top defensemen and multiple high picks to go get Matthew Tkachuk, and everything changed for their franchise over the last 3 years. Like their culture, everything changed over the last 3 years, and he was a big-time part of that. Is Carolina willing to make a bold move like that? Now, they made a bold move we saw during the season to get Mikko Rantanen. Now, obviously, that just didn't work out for a myriad of reasons, not because the player was bad. It's just because the person wasn't the fit. That's also something to keep in mind as well, is that there are a lot of great players out there, but does the person fit? There's a difference between the two. Like Mikko Rantanen, tremendous player. We've seen it. But the person wasn't right.
And then Jake Gensel last season, man, another one that they kind of swung for the fences on. And unfortunately, they just kind of, the Hurricanes messed it up on their end.
Yeah, well, that was a drop in the ball of the front office type deal. Because Jake Gensel worked in Carolina. He played 17 games in the regular season for Carolina. Jake Gensel did. 8 goals, 17 assists, 25 points in 17 games. He was the goal scorer and point producer that they needed. And then in the playoffs in 11 games, he had 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points. Like, he was producing for this team. Like, a player like him can work in this system. Now, obviously, there's the size and physicality and everything that comes with it, but at least he was producing points. Now, I think, he's an undersized guy. We saw in the playoffs, I think Logan Stankoven is a guy that can elevate his play. I think Logan Stankoven could be a 20-plus goal scorer for this team. Now, the question is, who's the center getting him the puck? That's the big question. Carolina, as much as they need scoring wingers, they still need, in my eyes, a guy that could be one of your top 2 centers. Now, some people will say, hey, if Aho should be your number 2 center, fine. If Aho is the number 2 center and they get a guy that could be like a number 1 above him, great. I ain't going to complain. Ain't going to complain at all. But Graham, this is the team that the grittiness needs to come from more than just the bottom 6 guys. Like, they need their top players. Like Jarvis isn't afraid to mix it up in the corners. He's just not. But he's just on the smaller side of things. Svechnikov can be that, but unfortunately, there's a little bit too much volatility in his game. There's lack of consistency. That's the big thing with Svechnikov. We've seen it when he was great in the first couple rounds of the postseason. We're all like, oh, you and I were sitting there in the postgame a couple times with Rob Brindamore was like, yeah, that's the Svechnikov we've been waiting to see. Like, Graham, you were in those rooms. You heard those same things from Rob Brindamore himself.
Yeah. Speaking of Rod Brindamore and his postgame comments during the Stanley Cup playoffs, I begin to think about this. On the eve of free agency, with how similar of a style that the Hurricanes play to the Panthers, that's one thing that Rod Brindamore said during the Eastern Conference Finals. They copied our system, or not, they took our system and they do it better than we do. I just wonder how many players are out there right now thinking, yeah, with how similar of a system that Carolina plays, I feel like my grittiness and I could be able to step into the lineup and make it work. I guess what I'm trying to ask is, why is Carolina not more of an it is an attractive place, but why is there not more of like a Sam Bennett type player with that grittiness, that edge, that chip on the shoulder that's like, yeah, you know, I want to be a part of Carolina just because I feel like with how close they are already in terms of the style of play, I could be that player to get them over the edge or get them over the hump.
You know, I think it's the system, which again, it's the system and philosophy that the Florida Panthers and Carolina Hurricanes have are nearly identical. Now, there's some small intricacies with their systems in terms of like maybe how they break out of the zone and stuff that are a little bit different, but the philosophies and everything they're all molded from the same play. I think I think some guys just might for example, like don't want to play that style of system for an entire year because it is taxing as a skater. Like it really is. Maybe they just don't want to play in that, but guess what? That system works. It does. It just simply works. Because, again, we've seen the Florida Panthers make it to 3 straight cups and win 2 straight cups. It definitely works. But we'll see. By the way, real quick here, breaking news here, Graham, on the NHL side of things. I know Evan Bouchard, who's a right-handed defenseman for the Edmonton Oilers, young guy, restricted free agent, is obviously free agent frenzy, presented by John Heister, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. As things are getting underway here, free agency, apparently, according to Chris Johnston of The Athletic, Evan Bouchard is signing a 4-year contract extension with the Edmonton Oilers, carrying a $10.5 million average annual value. Now, if Carolina, if they would have made a play to trade for Evan Bouchard to skate alongside Jacob Slavin for the next 8 years, I would have loved it. But obviously that's not going to happen. He's obviously a tremendous player and something that Edmonton doesn't want to give up because Edmonton want to make sure they have the best team available because Connor McDavid's going into the last year of his contract and they want to make sure they are still viable as a team because McDavid said, hey, as long as I feel like I can win here, I'll stay.
But it's very clear that he's not like heart set on not clear, but you kind of get that feel and that tone based on their exit interviews that he's not fully committed to maybe returning to Edmonton.
Yeah, I mean, I think he will, again, as long as they are showing, hey, I feel like I can win with this team, and keeping a guy like Evan Bouchard is a big-time part of that.
They're willing to keep building around him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Speaking of players that the Carolina Hurricanes could go after, Nikolai Ehlers we talked about. Maybe there's some others. Mikael Granlund, Brock Besser. You can go ahead and scratch Aaron Ekblad off the list. Some potential free agents or trade targets for the Carolina Hurricanes. Next.
Move your sports day forward.
In the often forgettable churn of sports news, it's a good thing Will Wade is stoking the rivalry fire between State and Carolina. In this fresh age of player transfers and payments, the only way to provide spark these days has to be through the coaches. The one-and-done kids can't hint at rivalry. Wade's delivering in an area for me way ahead of schedule.
Get set up. Join Next Up with Paul Ihander. Mornings at 9 on 99.9 The Fan, the Triangle Sports Leader.
It's not Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's Tuesday. The very first Tuesday.
New scratch-off tickets are available on the first Tuesday of every month.
Announcer said first Tuesday.
Brand new scratch-offs, brand new fun. Now from the North Carolina Education Lottery. Every first Tuesday. Must be 18 to play. Problem Gambling Helpline, 877-718-5543.
So free agency is officially opens at noon tomorrow in the NHL. Officially noon tomorrow. Now the free agent pool, it's thin. It is quite thin. Obviously the big fish out there is Brad Marchand. Obviously, Mitch Marner. Aaron Ekblad, you can scratch him off the list. Nikolai Ehlers is out there. Brock Besser is a guy that is out there as well. Forward from the Vancouver Canucks. He's 28 years old. I mean, he scores at a 30-goal. If he scores at a pace that's a 30-goal season, Brock Besser does. I don't know how much he actually fits in terms of Carolina. I know Brock Besser is a player that the Carolina Hurricanes were potentially interested in when the Carolina Hurricanes were shopping Martin Necas last year, trying to look to maybe it's Elias Pettersson from Vancouver. Maybe it was Brock Besser. JT Miller was all part of the conversation. They obviously ended up getting Mikko Rantanen. We'll see. But Brock Besser is also potentially a free agent that the Carolina Hurricanes can sign. Now, Vancouver might try to make a push to try and keep him, but to be determined. Now, when it comes to making trades right now, Erik Tulsky, the general manager for the Carolina Hurricanes, he discussed this back on Friday right after the first round of the NHL draft. He discussed about what the team might be looking for in terms of trades, but also when it comes to the trade market in the NHL right now, a lot of teams really aren't settling for futures. Graham, you have that soundbite ready to go? Here's Erik Tulsky on Friday about what teams in the NHL are looking for.
Almost every team in the league right now is looking to get better. And most years you have a few teams that are deep into rebuilds or starting rebuilds and are willing to move some of their veterans for picks. And this year, almost every team is saying if they move a player, they want players back. And that makes it hard to get deals done because everyone's trying to either, if everyone's trying to add to their team, there's sort of, we can't all add. It's hard to do a trade where both sides add. And so, I think that more than anything else has sort of slowed down the market right now. It's just everybody's looking to do the same thing at once.
Now, Pittsburgh might be a team, for example, that, Ricard Raquel, Brian Russ, some of these guys, like Pittsburgh might be a team that's looking to rebuild and reset, which is what they should be doing because most of their contracts are tied up in like 4 guys with Crosby, Malkin, Chris Letang, Erik Karlsson. Erik Karlsson, by the way, the defenseman for the Pittsburgh Penguins, has 2 years left on his deal. It's at $10 million a year. Now, he is due tomorrow, if I remember correctly, it's tomorrow, a $5 million bonus tomorrow. It's like part of his built-in contract that on July 1st, he gets basically $5 million at the start of the year. That's just like a cash payment. Now, if a team waits for that $5 million to be paid out by the Pittsburgh Penguins for Erik Karlsson, maybe it's going to cost you a little bit more in terms of like assets going back to Pittsburgh in order to get Erik Karlsson. Hey, if we're going to pay that $5 million in cash and we're going to trade him to you, you better give us like either a higher end prospect or an extra pick or two, whatever it might be, in order to make that work. So Erik Karlsson could potentially be a guy with that offensive skill set that's right-handed that could also help on the power play, might be the guy that Pittsburgh is willing to trade to Carolina if Carolina's willing to make a move. Now, what would it cost? Would it cost you Scott Morrow and a first-round pick next year and maybe another player? Possibly. But you're also trading within the division, so there's obviously a little bit of caution that comes with that. Maybe Karlsson is a guy, that you can have on the team for the next couple of seasons. And then hopefully some of the guys that you have drafted and developed can bring up. But here's the thing as well. If the Carolina Hurricanes feel like they're getting enough production on their power play from a guy like Shane Gostisbehere, well, why would I also go for another guy like Erik Karlsson? Again, these are all questions. Maybe Shane Gostisbehere quarterbacks your second power play. Don't let Alexander Nikishin handle that responsibility right from the get-go. Let Alexander Nikishin focus on being a great 5-on-5 player and maybe being a penalty killer. So these are all things that the Carolina Hurricanes have to balance, right, when it comes to going for players. But Erik Karlsson is a guy that potentially could be going for. Now, here's something to keep in mind as well, Graham. This is the last offseason that the Carolina Hurricanes and any team in the NHL can sign their own free agents to 8-year contract extensions or other teams' free agents to 7-year contracts. Because once the new collective bargaining agreement kicks in next year, the max contract length that you can sign for a player on your team that's either is going to the last year of their contract or as a free agent is 7 years. Then also going into the offseason next year, if you want to sign a free agent from another team, the max term length is only 6 years. And I actually asked Erik Tulsky about this on Friday, about how the new CBA will impact signing players this offseason.
If we can get deals done early that both sides are happy with, we always want to do that. We don't really want uncertainty if we can help it. There are times when both sides kind of need to let it play out, but we're going to be talking to our guys and seeing what we can get done where we can.
So that applies to a guy going into like the last year of his entry-level contract, like a Logan Stankoven. This offseason is the last opportunity, or just any time during this season, I should say, the last opportunity that the Carolina Hurricanes can sign Logan Stankoven to, for example, an 8-year contract extension on top of the final year of his entry-level deal. It's the last chance to do that. Same with Nick Keeshan, who's going into the last year of his entry-level contract. It's weird to say, even though he just got here. But Jackson Blake, Bradley Nadeau, some of these other guys that, depending on, and maybe not Bradley Nadeau, but Jackson Blake, or any of these guys going into the last year of their contract, if you're going to sign a free agent like a Brock Besser or Nikolai Ehlers, this is their last chance to sign for 7 years. It's their last chance to do it. Because from here on out, if you're a free agent signing another team, the max you're going to be able to do is 6. Now, Brock Besser's a guy that possibly could be a Carolina Hurricane. Mikael Granlund from Dallas is a potential possibility. We saw Mikael Granlund get traded from the San Jose Sharks, a terrible situation as a whole, even though they have some good young players. But Mikael Granlund got traded from San Jose over to the Dallas Stars during the season at the trade deadline. Put up 21 points in 31 games with the Dallas Stars last year. It's pretty good production, and he's a center. Kevin Weeks of ESPN, former Carolina Hurricane, joined the Adam Gold Show earlier today and said, yeah, Mikael Granlund, that should be a player the Canes go after.
Why not? He's proven that he could play in the postseason. He's proven he could play in the regular season. He plays multiple positions. Hard-working Finnish player. I'm sure he knows and has a relationship with Fishy, who they call down there, yeah. Mr. Aho, among others. And, I've always liked his versatility. I like his skill set. He's unafraid to make plays in the hard areas. And, every team, I shouldn't say every, the good teams have an identity. They have a defined identity and what their characteristics are. The Canes have those. I think he's somebody that they can plug into their system. And you don't necessarily, it doesn't have to be a huge out-of-pocket spend, but I think there could be some value there as a good top 6, maybe middle 6 player for the Canes. That's a professional.
Hey, if Mikael Granlund comes in as your number 2 center on this team, I think that's a good thing. Because that will allow, maybe it's Kotkaniemi to play down more bottom 6, which I think his skill set. Jesperi Kotkaniemi's skill set, honestly, he can play a heavy style game as like a 4th-line forward, as a 4th-line center or 3rd-line center. I think he can play that well. Unfortunately, he's being paid to be a scoring center as like one of your top 6 forwards, and it just unfortunately just hasn't worked out yet.
And that feels like something that the fan base has kind of been craving for, is what a true second-line center.
Yeah, like someone that can get. For example, I think that Taylor Hall and Logan Stankoven as a wing pair go really well together. I think we saw in a different flashes last season that those two guys paired together as wingers. I think they think the game in very similar ways, and I think their skill sets can complement each other quite well. Who can get them the puck is the biggest question. And we saw Stankoven at times, obviously, in the postseason last year, play alongside Jordan Staal and Jordan Martinook. Now, he obviously can play well alongside those guys, but unfortunately, the scoring opportunities just simply weren't there just because Staal and Martinook, offensive skill just isn't their forte. Not that they aren't able to chip in offensively at times. It's just not what their main role is on the team. Now, I think if Mikael Granlund can play alongside those guys, I think that's great. I know our friend Micah, who called in earlier, even mentioned our YouTube chat, mentioned a guy like Nazem Kadri from Calgary, which Nazem Kadri from Calgary is a player that he has a no movement clause this year, and he's under contract for the next 4 years. He's 34 years old. I don't know how much that's a deterrent, but 6 foot 192, but a guy that has actually put up good points and good numbers. I mean, this past season for Calgary, 35 goals, played all 82 games. He's played all 82 games each of the last 3 years, Graham. He's put up 35 goals, 29 goals, 24 goals. Even with the Colorado Avalanche in 2022, put up 28 goals. Like, this guy has been nearly a point per game type player. We're talking, 50-plus points each of the last 4 seasons. And he's a good player. And he's also not afraid to be a jerk. He's been suspended some games, just to let you know. But he's not afraid to cross and toe the line. That's something that Nazem Kadri's not afraid to do either. But I don't know how much of that contract is a deterrent and if he's willing to waive his no-move clause to come to Carolina. Again, $7 million a year, 34 years old, 4 years left on his contract. Is that a player you're willing to go pay or willing to give up assets for to go after? I don't know. To be determined. Because, again, if you want to go after a guy like Nazem Kadri or any of these other trades, you have to give up players to do it. That's why, if you get a Mikael Granlund in free agency, hey, I'll be fine with that too. I know Corey Laviolette wrote this in the Athletic earlier today, who also writes for the North State Journal. Corey Laviolette does a fantastic job covering the Carolina Hurricanes as a beat writer. He mentioned earlier today that the moves that this team makes might have to come early in the season when there are teams that realize, oh, we're out of it. We're out of the playoff race. We're really not going to be able to make it. Maybe it's January that this team makes moves.
Kind of like what we've been used to seeing the past 2 seasons with this front office.
Yeah. And you know what? The Canes have the future assets that a team that's willing to sell might have that available to them. It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Also, another name to look out for, Rasmus Andersson, Calgary Flames. 1 year left on his contract. Right-handed defenseman. Can bring a little bit of grit, too. Has some offensive upside, 28 years old. Right-handed defenseman. If the Carolina Hurricanes make a trade for Rasmus Andersson, they're going to sign him to a contract extension. And apparently Vegas wants him too, Graham, because apparently the Vegas Golden Knights are in on everybody. Coming up in the starting five, the latest in the NHL, as well as, hey, the NFL is like, hey, we're making news too. Starting five next.
Hey, it's Adam Gold, and I know the hurricane season came to an end. Another year with a loss to Florida in the Eastern Conference Finals, 2 of the last 3. But it's been a great year, and it's going to be a great summer with all that cap room the Hurricanes have. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, from free agency to trades to the draft. We'll have player interviews, special sit-down with Rod Brindamore that he doesn't even know about yet. He'll do it, don't worry. Just stay tuned to the Canes Corner podcast on YouTube. Search Canes Corner and wherever you get your podcast.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon you wish would never end.
The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
You'll be one smart cookie when you try Bluebell Cookie Cake Ice Cream. A sweet cream ice cream loaded with chocolate chip cookie cake pieces and swirls of chocolate and vanilla icing. This cookie cake ice cream really takes the cake.
The good old days are being made right now.
The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell ice cream at Walmart Supercenters and Walmart Neighborhood Markets.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you get coverage options based on how much you want to pay for car insurance. And then you decide how to spend the rest of your money, because you're in charge. Today, you're going to pay down your credit card bill. But you decide when you'll pay it. Before the due date, so those interest charges don't get you. But you decide if you pay it in full. But you definitely should, because again, interest charges. With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, we'll help you find coverage at a fair price. And then you're in charge. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Give me those sauces. Grab the chicken strips. Let's dunk them in there. There's nothing like it. Hey, I'm Joey. And I'm Josh. And we're team members at our local Chick-fil-A. And a little thing you'll love about the Chick-fil-A chicken strips is dipping them in our sauces. My sauce is the barbecue sauce. If you wanted to add sweet, tangy flavors, there's nothing like it.
I love the garden herb ranch sauce, but if you want a little bit more kick in the spicy side, you can mix it with buffalo sauce.
Dipping them in our sauces, it is perfection.
It's the summer of Chick-fil-A chicken strips and sauces. Order now on the Chick-fil-A app. Team members paid for their testimonials.
This hour of the Triangle Sports Leader is powered Powered by Ritchie Law Firm, injury lawyers. Ritchie Law is on top of it. Go to ritchielaw.com.
Get in the hole!
That's ritchielaw.com.
Broadcasting live from the Lenovo Studios. WCMC HD1 Holly Springs. 99.9 The Fan. The Triangle Sports Leader.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm WRL meteorologist Mike Mays. We are tracking the next cold front moving into the area tomorrow night and Wednesday, increasing the odds of showers and storms. Now, it's just a small chance for a storm this evening, 76 the low. A greater chance for showers and storms late tomorrow and tomorrow evening.
Weather update brought to you by Newcomb & Company, where your comfort is their business. Visit newcombandcompany.com. 5 o'clock check of your money. Dow Jones closes up 275 points at 44,094.
It's 5 o'clock. Time to serve up the biggest sports stories of the day. Here comes your starting five.
It's the Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Graham Hill producing the show. Let's go and get to the starting five, Graham. Starting with number 5.
Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And it's Stankoven scores! A power play goal for Logan Stankoven. His second of the period puts the Canes up 3-0.
I remember that shot game 1 against the New Jersey Devils. We had that power play goal. Just stung the corner, Logan Stankoven. Gosh, I'm a big fan of that guy. I hope we, tomorrow, get news of him maybe signing a contract extension with the Carolina Hurricanes. That'd be lovely. But Graham, hit the breaking news sounder. Darren Dreger, part of TSN. He's one of their hockey insiders up there in Canada. And then he's the first one I saw have this. Mitch Marner of the Toronto Maple Leafs has signed an 8-year deal with the Leafs as part of a sign-and-trade to go to the Vegas Golden Knights. So a sign-and-trade. Now, the trade not done to Vegas. This is like a step in the process. Obviously, the Vegas Golden Knights are going to have to, they're going to have to obviously settle on the compensation and everything, go back. Although, obviously, they're going to make this deal happen in some way, shape, or form. But Mitch Marner, 8 years, $12 million a year for Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner, sign and trade, going to the Vegas Golden Knights. So, Graham, there it is right there. The big free agent, Mitch Marner, isn't even going to get to the open market.
Just like that.
Just like that. 8-year deal, 12. Again, this is breaking news if you're just tuning in. Mitch Marner signing an 8-year, $12 million contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs and is going to be traded to the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, what's going back to Toronto? To be determined. To be determined. But we heard last week, Graham, Vegas was in the running, and that Vegas was the team that we heard a bunch about Mitch Marner getting signed in free agency. But, and actually, Graham, let's go ahead and bring up the clip from Elliot Friedman of 32 Thoughts, part of Sportsnet up in Canada, about how Vegas approaching Toronto about Mitch Marner back at about the trade deadline. Let me know when we have that soundbite pulled up. So this is actually at the scouting combine. Elliot Friedman discussed about how the Vegas Golden Knights approached Toronto about Mitch Marner, again, back at the NHL scouting combine.
But I do believe one of the things that was talked about there was Vegas saying to the Maple Leafs, if you make Marner's rights available, we would like to talk to you about them. Once again, Vegas establishing that they like Marner. And I do believe over the last few days to a week, those conversations have begun. That the Maple Leafs and the Golden Knights have discussed what a trade for Marner's rights could look like.
Now, a big one is, how does the money work? Okay? Now, Elliot Friedman, also of Sportsnet, this is a part of his 32 Thoughts podcast yesterday morning. So again, if you're just tuning in, maybe you're just hopping in the car, maybe you're just flipping over, the Vegas Golden Knights are going to be trading for Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner signed an 8-year contract at $12 million a year with the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's part of a sign and trade. Now, how does that work financially for the Vegas Golden Knights? Well, Elliot Friedman says Vegas does have some work to do.
Vegas still needs to clear room to make this work. They don't want to trade Carlson, and they've told everybody that. They don't want to trade Hurdle, and they've told everybody that. They don't want to trade Barbashev, and they've told everybody that. So how does this all work? Well, one of the ways, and Kelly McCrimmon talked about this on Saturday with the local media there, is that Alex Pietrangelo, they have some decisions to make. And Pietrangelo, as I said several times, one of my favorite players, going to the Hall of Fame, but he's going to be on LTIR for a while, looks like. So that will create some room.
So Alex Pietrangelo makes $8.5 million a year. The injury apparently for Alex Pietrangelo not only is going to cost him this season for the Vegas Golden Knights, but potentially could linger into the 25-26 season. Again, it's a pretty bad injury. So $8.8 million I can go in long-term injured reserve. They have $2.1 million in cap space. A name that was been floated a lot between this potential trade between Vegas and Toronto for Mitch Marner is Nick Waugh. Nick Waugh, you might recognize that name, Canes fans. Former Carolina Hurricane, Nicholas Waugh, might be going back. He makes $3 million a year, might be going to Toronto. So if Toronto's $3 million of Nick Waugh moving, plus their $2.1 million in cap space, plus $8.8 million in long-term injured reserve for Alex Pietrangelo. Well, guess what? Doing my honor math here, Graham, which I know sometimes Tim Donnelly will struggle with, but that's nearly $14 million. If Mitch Marner is signing the eight-year deal at $12 million a year with Toronto as part of the sign and trade, well, guess what? You make the money work, assuming Nick Waugh is part of that deal. So the trade's still having to be finalized. Obviously, it has to go through the league call and all those kinds of things, trying to figure out what all this is coming back. But again, Graham, the breaking news, Mitch Marner not hitting free agency.
Do you feel like this might take a weight off the Carolina Hurricanes front office shoulders in terms of free agency hasn't really begun, but that's maybe one of your top guys that's already off the board, but maybe it frees you up a little bit in terms of, all right, it kind of felt like there was the rumors, and we won't know, or we might not ever know, maybe down the road. There was the rumors and stuff that it was unclear if Marner even had the Hurricanes on his list. And I know last week we were talking about how, all right, well, if you're the Carolina Hurricanes, you're Erik Tulsky, the plan maybe tomorrow was just to call right away, call his agent, say, are we or are we not? And if the Hurricanes were on his list, then he could start maybe negotiating. And we were saying if he didn't have the Hurricanes on his list, to just go ahead, hang up the phone, move on from Mitch Marner. Like, how much does this change their free agency plan now?
I don't know if you mentioned earlier, is there a weight off their shoulder? I don't think it's a weight off their shoulder. I think it's just, okay, shift in focus. If we're not going to get Marner, we know he's off the board. Now, all 30 other teams in the NHL, because obviously Toronto, Vegas, part of this trade, all the other 30 teams in the NHL have to be, all right, what was plan B? Now, some teams were probably thinking, well, we're not going to be on the Mitch Marner deal anyway. But there is the trickle-down effect, right? Because now if, for example, a team that was interested in Mitch Marner now shifts their focus to Nikolai Ehlers or Brock Besser or someone else, a team that wasn't going to be on a Mitch Marner goes, well, wait a second. Now the pool got a little bit more thin, right? The free agency pool this offseason, it's not very deep. And the biggest piece of the free agent market, or a couple of the biggest pieces, are off the board. So again, if you're just tuning in with us, the breaking news in the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes are not going to be getting Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner is signing an 8-year contract extension with the Toronto Maple Leafs as part of a sign and trade with the Vegas Golden Knights. So here's an interesting part about this as well, Graham, is that if Mitch Marner just wanted to sign outright with Vegas, the max he could have gotten was 7 years. by doing a sign and trade, he can get the 8th year on his deal, which I guess is an important thing for him. So 8 years, $12 million a year. Now, in terms of, obviously, the trade officially has to go through. I've been refreshing the timelines here, Graham, and trying to figure out, okay, what's going back to Vegas and all those kinds of things, or going from Vegas back to Toronto. But this is going to have a big impact on everybody, because if you looked at the lack of a better term, the big board of free agents, like, for example, The Athletic actually earlier today, this is actually part of, from Chris Johnston. He put this out at like 12:40 today. You got something, Graham? More? Okay. Graham's got more breaking news. Hit us.
Well, here's another one off the list. As I was refreshing Elliot Friedman's Twitter page to find an update on Mitch Marner 1 minute ago, hearing Brad Marchand is closing on a 6-year extension in Florida. Just under $32 million is the total. The Panthers pulled it off. Very impressive. So I got to go change some descriptions and titles for this YouTube video.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. All right.
You know, I'm just taking starting 5 off the back and just boom. There we go.
That's just, okay. So, like, starting 5 is scrapped right now. This is a free agent frenzy on 99.9 The Fan, presented by John Heister Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. We're doing this. So if you want NHL news, obviously Canes, everything that's related to it, tune in here, because we're updating everyone on everything. So, okay, let's recap here, Graham, some of the big stuff that's happened even since the start of this show. All right? The Florida Panthers are keeping Aaron Ekblad on a 8-year contract at $6.1 million a year. Brad Marchand, you just said, by Elliot Friedman, 6-year contract, just under $32 million total. On-air math tells me, Graham, that's just over $5 million a year. So we'll do $5 and change million a year. Mitch Marner. Now, these are like 3 of the top, like, 4 or 5 free agents out there. Mitch Marner, 8 years, $12 million as a sign and trade from Toronto to Vegas. So 3 of the biggest pieces are off the board. So actually, I was just mentioning a moment ago before you hit us with that breaking news, is that Chris Johnston of The Athletic put down like a list of like the top free agents going into this offseason, like, you know, top like 88 guys or something like that. You know who was number 1 on that list? Mitch Marner.
Yep.
You know who was number 2 on that list?
Brad Marchand.
Brad Marchand. You know who was number 3 on that list? Aaron Ekblad. So now you're getting into the top free agent out there, Nikolai Ehlers, Brock Besser. Those are the top free agent forwards that are out there, followed by Mikael Granlund. Now, Mikael Granlund, Graham, let's go ahead and bring up that clip from Kevin Weeks once again. Kevin Weeks, part of ESPN, former Carolina Hurricane himself, but joined the Adam Gold Show earlier today about why Mikael Granlund, a center from the Dallas Stars, could be a good fit for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Why not? He's proven that he could play in the postseason. He's proven he could play in the regular season. He plays multiple positions. Hard-working Finnish player. I'm sure he knows and has a relationship with Fishy, who they call down there, Mr. Aho, among others. And, I've always liked his versatility. I like his skill set. He's unafraid to make plays in the hard areas. And, every team, I shouldn't say every, the good teams have an identity. They have a defined identity and what their characteristics are. The Canes have those. I think he's somebody that they can plug into their system. And you don't necessarily, it doesn't have to be a huge out-of-pocket spend, but I think there could be some value there as a good top 6, maybe middle 6 player for the Canes that's a professional.
So Mikael Granlund is probably now one of the top 3 free agent forwards that are out there, Graham. Like one of the top 3. By the way, this is the starting 5, supposed to be, but breaking news, again, if you just missed it, Mitch Marner signing an 8-year, $12 million a year contract extension with the Toronto Maple Leafs as part of a sign and trade to go to Vegas. All right, so Mitch Marner is going to be a Vegas Golden Knight. Aaron Ekblad re-signed with the Florida Panthers earlier today. Brad Marchand re-signing with the Florida Panthers today. So now if you're Carolina, the competition for these free agents just got more intense.
I love how I asked you the question before we broke the Brad Marchand move of that it felt like there was a weight lifted off the Hurricanes' shoulders.
I know.
And now it feels like maybe the weight might have just gotten right back on their shoulders with two of the top free agents off the board just like that.
So Carolina, again, Aaron Ekblad, 8 years, $6.1 million. Brad Marchand, it's a 6-year contract. They said just under $32 million. So you're looking at about 5 and change in terms of Brad Marchand, 6 years. Mitch Marner, 8 years, $12 million a year. So now the competition, Graham, for whether it's Brock Besser, for Nikolai Ehlers, for Mikael Granlund, it only got more intense. Because now you start looking at the free agency pool for the Carolina Hurricanes and really any team around the league. I mean, a guy like Pius Suter, who's a center and actually put up 25 goals this past year for the Vancouver Canucks, like Pius Suter is going to get paid handsomely. Now, he's a left-handed center as well, probably not the biggest guy in the world, but put up 25 goals and 46 points this past year. Like, he could command as much as like a $5 million a year on the open market contract because the market is so thin. Now, for example, if a team wants a defenseman, I mean, Dmitry Orlov is floating around out there. That might get picked up by another team. Like, how much does Jack Roslovic, like, again, how thin the free agent market is. I mean, Jack Roslovic's not going to be coming back to the Carolina Hurricanes, but he might find himself in a situation where he's getting paid handsomely. They can say, oh, look, he was a 22-goal scorer this past year. Does Carolina go after a guy like Corey Perry, who's a burly physical winger? Granted, he's 40 years old, but, hey, can you play in the bottom 6 of our roster? But when we need you on the power play and bump up late in games, we need you to score around the net. And Corey Perry kept scoring in the postseason this past year. Last I checked. I don't know, do you throw $1 million deal at him that's incentive-laden for 1 year? What about a Connor Brown? I don't know. Like, these, you are starting to get real thin real fast. And Graham, let's go and pull up the Erik Tulsky quote from back on Friday about teams and what they're looking for in free agency with players. So Erik Tulsky was asked about the offseason so far and about the draft. This is Erik Tulsky back on Friday. He did mention about how his phone was ringing in terms of trades, right? Phone was ringing. There's a lot of interaction with other teams and other general managers about potential trades, but we didn't see a lot of draft picks get moved for current players back on Friday during the draft, and Erik Tulsky explained why.
Almost every team in the league right now is looking to get better, and most years you have a few teams that are deep into rebuilds or starting rebuilds and are willing to move some of their veterans for picks. And this year, almost every team is saying if they move a player, they want players back. And that makes it hard to get deals done because everyone's trying to either, if everyone's trying to add to their team, there's sort of, we can't all add. It's hard to do a trade where both sides add. And so, I think that more than anything else has sort of slowed down the market right now. It's just everybody's looking to do the same thing at once.
So based off what Erik Tulsky, you heard just say there, he said that back on Friday. Based on what Erik Tulsky just said there, if Carolina is going to try and make a move to improve their roster, again, Mikael Granlund might be someone that they go after. Now, you're probably going to have to overpay a little bit because the market's so thin. That's what a guy like Mikael Granlund's going to demand a pretty high price. The whole thing in business, supply, demand, Graham? Supply and demand? Well, guess what? The supply is short and the demand is high. That's when prices inflate. Simple as that. But if Carolina wants to improve their roster, if they want to go after Jason Robertson, if they want to go after Tage Thompson or whomever, it's going to cost a lot. Like, you might have to be willing to give up a player that is currently on your roster and not just anybody. Like, you have to be willing to give away possibly a good player to go get someone even better. Another? All right, Graham. What else we got?
As I refresh Elliot Friedman's page once again 2 minutes ago, also hearing that Ivan Provorov, I want to butcher
Ivan
this name.
Provorov?
Yeah, Ivan Provorov will be re-signing in Columbus.
Okay, so there's a defenseman off the board. Ivan Provorov, left-handed defenseman, put up 33 points this past year for Columbus. Left-handed guy, I think he was actually former Philadelphia Flyer. So there's a defenseman that comes off the board. If Carolina wants to improve their roster, again, Mikael Granlund might be the guy to go after, but the price for Brock Besser, for Nikolai Ehlers, those all just went up. It all just went up. And if Carolina wants to get better on their roster, this is why we say you might have to be willing to part with Jesperi Kotkaniemi. You might have to be willing to part with Jackson Blake. You might be willing to part with Bradley Nadeau. Might be willing to part with Scott Morrow because teams are going to want players back. And they might sit there and say, well, some of these guys are really young or are on, entry-level contracts, guys that we can grow and that can help with us right now and still get better in the future, and picks in order to get a player because the demand is going to be so high. Every team, Graham, around the NHL all got the massive bump of $7.5 million cap jump from last year. Do you have more breaking news?
No, I was just
I'm about to say, you're throwing me off for a loop here, Graham.
I was just thinking, are we even going to have any free agents tomorrow at this point?
That's a major question. It might be a couple small moves here and there, but I don't know really what we're going to get. I really don't know tomorrow because, again, the pool, it's a shallow pool, Graham.
Just from starting five, which now it's just free agent friendly, presented by John Heister, Brad Marchand, Mitch Marner, now Ivan Provorov. It feels like the Hurricanes have to go out and get Thompson and Robertson, right? They have to try.
I mean, I would love one or both of those guys, but what would it cost to go get a Jason Robertson? In all honesty, it would cost you
like an Andrei Svechnikov, probably.
It might cost you that, or to get Tage Thompson, it's going to cost you that, or to go get Alex Tuck, it's going to cost you. To go get Alex Tuck, who's on the final year of his contract, a team's going to want players that can play right now. Well, that might cost you Jackson Blake and Bradley Nadeau and a pick to go get an Alex Tuck, again, who's on the final year of his contract. Is he willing to re-sign with your team long term? Jason Robertson is going to be a restricted free agent after this year, so at least there's some sort of cost control. What is it now?
Elliot Friedman's just working overtime right now.
Clearly.
Other announcements, Toronto signs Steven Laurent, LA signs Andrei Kuzmenko.
Okay, Andrei Kuzmenko. Oh, Steven Lawrence. Former Carolina Hurricane.
Remember
3
that guy?
years. Yeah, I remember that guy. I like Steve. Lawrence was good. So, again, if you just missed that. So, again, these teams are actively re-signing their guys right now. Andrei Kuzmenko, 1 year, $4.3 million to stay in L.A. Steven Lawrence, 3 years at $1.35 million a year to stay in Toronto. Here's the one thing I will say about this with Carolina is that pretty much everyone on their roster currently, with the exception of Mark Jankowski and Freddie Anderson, Carolina either has the players under control or has under contract for at least the next 2 seasons. The reason why I say under control is that after this upcoming season, Logan Stankoven, Jackson Blake, Alexander Nikishin are restricted free agents. Okay? So Carolina has control over these guys in terms of their rights. But everyone else on the roster, with the exception of Mark Jankowski and Freddie Anderson, everyone's under contract or under control for at least the next 2 seasons. So Carolina doesn't have to worry about, well, if we sign this guy, well, what about next year as well? They don't have to worry about that. If Carolina wants to make moves to get somebody, they're going to have to be willing to make some trades and have to possibly swing big this offseason. So for those of you all missed the breaking news, this happened 25 minutes ago. Mitch Marner of the Toronto Maple Leafs is signing an 8-year, $12 million contract, $12 million a year contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs as part of a sign and trade to go to the Vegas Golden Knights. So basically he agreed upon the terms. He's signing it with Toronto, but he's going to get traded to the Golden Knights. So Mitch Marner is going to be a Golden Knight, 8 years, $12 million a year. Aaron Ekblad staying with the Florida Panthers, the defenseman, 8 years at $6.1 million a year. Brad Marchand staying with the Florida Panthers, 6 years at just over $5 million per year.
I mean, we went 0 to 100 super quick.
Free agency starts officially at noon tomorrow, folks. Stay locked in here on The Fan. We're going to keep you updated on everything. This is The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Graham, just because we have all this breaking news and everything that's happening, that doesn't mean we don't still have a numbers game. We need 2 contestants, 919-860-5326, 919-860-5326. Call it again, 919-860-5326 for your chance to compete in the numbers game and win a pair of tickets to see The Offspring with Jimmy Eat World and Newfound Glory at Coastal Credit Union Music Park on July 16th, which is a Wednesday. Again, 2 contestants, pair of tickets on the line to see The Offspring with Jimmy Eat World and Newfound Glory at Coastal Credit Union Music Park. You got to play the numbers game, and you got to win the numbers game to win a pair of tickets. 919-860-5326. Numbers game coming up next.
Listen every afternoon for The Drive with Tim Donnelly.
With free agency coming up, I don't know a lot about economics, but I know this. When there's a little supply, it's going to make the demand high. There's not many centers out there, and the Canes need one, so just be prepared for this. Either you're going to get a player you like, but the cost is going to be too much, or you're going to get a player you don't like, but you like the cost. You can't have it all.
The Drive with Tim Donnelly, 3 to 6 on 99.9 The Fan.
Are you ready for the ultimate entertainment experience? It's all here, only with Spectrum TV Select. Popular apps are included: Disney Plus, Max, Peacock Premium, Paramount Plus, AMC Plus, and more. And live TV for sports, entertainment, and news. Enjoy across your devices no matter when or where you are. Get Spectrum TV Select and start streaming your favorites today. It's all here. Visit spectrum.com/entertainment. Restrictions apply.
Is going to your local bar the worst part of your day? The bartender ignores you, mediocre food, warm beer? Then why go there? Take 5 minutes and drop in at Sharky's, where they'll give you a free evaluation, and you can learn about all the bars that you shouldn't go to. Sharky's has helped thousands find the right bar to hang at. What are you waiting for? Sharky's evaluation could be the cure to the worst part of your day. Change your bar, change your life. Sharky's, 5800 Durley Road by the Shell Station.
Out on credit cards, struggling with high interest debt? You can pay it all off in days with Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. Hey, it's Dennis Cox. Get cash out now without touching your low rate first mortgage. No appraisals, no waiting, no BS. The Rapid Equity Loan program at Loan Pronto is amazing. One Loan Pronto client just got $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. They paid off debt, renovated their kitchen, and cut their monthly expenses by $1,800. That's a huge turnaround. Loan Pronto, instant approvals, low rates, no hard credit pull up front. Listen, your home equity is yours. Use it. Get cash to consolidate your debt down to one easy low monthly payment. Call Loan Pronto now for a free instant appraisal for your home and see how much cash you can get today. Loan Pronto is A+ rated by the BBB and have nearly 2,500 5-star Google reviews. Their service is off the charts. Call now to start the conversation. 919-381-1760, loanpronto.com. 919-381-1760. Get debt relief now. Loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 1661781 on approved credit. NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was gonna unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Graham Hill producing the show. Don't worry, folks. We're going to get back into the NHL stuff coming up here very, very soon. But we do have some tickets to give away in the numbers game. We have 2 contestants. We have Jake from Raleigh. We have Bear from Clayton on the line in the numbers game. There's a pair of tickets to see The Offspring with Jimmy Eat World and Newfound Glory at Coastal Credit Union Music Park on July 16th. Now, this is a holiday week, Graham. So as we bring our contestants on, let's actually just go to Jake from Raleigh first. All right, Jake from Raleigh, I'm going to ask you with a holiday week. It's 4th of July weekend coming up. What is, by the way, so we're going to ask you a question. Graham's going to choose his best answer, and that person will go first here in the numbers game. Jake, I'm going to ask you this question first. If you have a cookout during like a holiday weekend, obviously 4th of July coming up, what is your go-to item on the grill for a cookout?
Okay, you can hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. I'm going to go dark horse, but this is like, I think underrated would be like a good roasted veggie skewer. So like the red peppers, like some tomatoes, maybe some cheese on there. I just think it's underrated. You got to eat your vegetables too.
Okay. All right. So we're sticking healthy here. Graham, any questions?
I just love that he phrased that as a dark horse pick.
Okay. Well, that's his choice. That's his answer. So Jake said a nice veggie skewer. Okay. Let's go to Bear and Clayton. Bear, it's a cookout. It's a holiday weekend coming up. What's your go-to thing on the grill?
Oh, you gotta go with the old classic, the old cheeseburger.
Okay, cheeseburger. Graham, any questions?
Simple, classic, like he said.
Okay.
Put some cheese on there. I love it.
All right. What's your pick? So we're going to determine who goes first. Are you going with Bear with the cheeseburger, the classic, or are you going to go with Jake with the veggie skewers?
Again, I love how Jake phrased the veggie skewers as a dark horse, but you got to go with the All-American Classic on America's birthday with the cheeseburgers. So we're going to go with Bear and Clayton.
All right, Bear and Clayton. All right, so Jake and Raleigh, stay on the line. Don't worry, you're going to go next. But Bear and Clayton, you're going to go first. If we have a tie in the numbers game, whoever goes first will be the winner if we do have a tie here in the numbers game. All right, Bear, I'm going to give you our 4 categories for which to choose from, and you will choose which one you want to hear for the numbers game, all right?
Yes, sir.
All right, we have NFL. We sound like sci-fi sidekicks, so just interesting, fun names. NFL, born in Washington State. So these are all players that were born in the state of Washington. NBA, all about the triple-double. So these are all active players in the NBA that have at least 2 or more triple-doubles in their career, and also NHL Hurricanes throughout history.
Let's go sci-fi NFL.
Okay. So NFL, we sound like sci-fi sidekicks. We're going to put 30 seconds on the clock. Your time will start when you hear the horn. You have 30 seconds on the clock. Trying to get all 5 players in 30 seconds or less. You do get 1 pass, Bear. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Bear, your time will start when you hear the horn. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Detroit Lions.
14.
Correct. Bo Nix, Denver Broncos.
10.
Correct. Zay Flowers, Baltimore Ravens.
4.
Correct. Tua Tagovailoa, Miami Dolphins.
1.
Correct. Tank Bigsby, Jacksonville Jaguars.
4.
Correct. Let's go. 5 for 5 right from the get-go.
21.5.
5 for 5 right from the get-go. That's how you start a week. Bring this mojo into free agency tomorrow for the Canes, all right? All right, so 21.5 seconds. That's the unofficial time by Graham. Bear, stay on the line because we have Jake from Raleigh's going to come on. Jake, are you there?
Yeah, I hope Bear likes the Offspring because this is going to be really hard for me to beat.
Hey, don't sell yourself and your vegetable skewers short, young man. Oh my God. All right? All right. The options you have are NFL, born in Washington, NBA, all about the triple doubles, and NHL, Hurricanes throughout history.
Let's go Canes.
Okay, Canes. All right. 5 names. Your time starts when you hear the horn. You have to beat 21.5 seconds. If you do get 5 for 5, then you beat that time. You are the winner. Okay, Jake, are you ready? Again, you do get
All
1
right.
pass. All right.
Yep.
Time starts when you hear the horn. Jordan Stahl, Carolina Hurricanes.
Gosh, why can't I remember Saul? Pass.
Jackson Blake, Carolina Hurricanes.
53.
Correct. Evgeny Kuznetsov, Carolina Hurricanes.
78.
Incorrect. Jordan Staal, Carolina Hurricanes.
22.
Incorrect. Evgeny Kuznetsov, Carolina Hurricanes.
57.
Incorrect. Hey, you got one. Okay. One for the veggies out there. You got Jackson Blake with 53. Jordan Staal, the captain, wears 11. The captain wears 11. 22 is Logan Stankoven, by the way. And Evgeny Kuznetsov wore number 92 with the Carolina Hurricanes. We saw him for a short bit last season. So there it is right there. At least you got one. And I hope your veggie skewers and everything are delicious this weekend. By the way, you have a chance to call back in and play tomorrow. So, Jake, don't be afraid to call back in and try tomorrow. Certainly for sure. But thanks so much for playing. And again, give another shot this week if you can.
Thanks. Great showing by Bear over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bring Bear back on. 5 for 5. Absolutely crushed it on the NFL names. By the way, Bear, great pull, Tank Bigsby, number 4. I never would have got that one.
Yeah, it took me a second.
Yeah, you did, and that's the reason why you only got 5 for 5 in only 21 and a half seconds. So that's the reason why. If you didn't think for a second, you could have gotten under 20. But congratulations to you, Bear. Stay on the line. Graham's got to get some information from you. But that's how you start a week, folks. 5 for 5 on a numbers game. Bear, bring that energy for the Canes when free agency starts tomorrow. That's the kind of efficiency and effectiveness we want for the Canes with free agency tomorrow, all right?
Oh, yeah. Thanks,
Okay.
Dennis. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Stay on the line. Graham's going to get some information from you here real quick. Graham, again, I hope that energy is brought tomorrow by the Carolina Hurricanes.
I mean, this last hour has just been a
bit of a whirlwind.
A no-huddle offense.
Yeah, to say the least. It's like 2-minute drill. Let's go.
Between starting 5, just turning into feedback frenzy, free agency frenzy. We'll get some feedback frenzy on all the announcements. And then a 5 to 5 to begin the week on the numbers game. What's going to happen in this last segment?
Well, that's what it looks like. Graham, go ahead and hit the breaking news sounder. I know you're going to get Bears information here, but for those of you who may have missed it, Mitch Marner is signing an 8-year contract at $12 million a year as part of a sign and trade for the Toronto Maple Leafs to the Vegas Golden Knights. And according to Bob McKenzie of TSN, that it looks like Nick Waugh, former Carolina Hurricane, Nick Waugh will be traded from Vegas to Toronto. Again, Nick Waugh's as a $3 million a year contract, but it's part of the sign and trade. So Mitch Marner going to Vegas, Toronto's getting Nick Waugh. Now, Toronto, as part of this deal, is at least getting a little bit of something and not losing Mitch Marner entirely. Now, Mitch Marner was probably going to be a Vegas Golden Knight either way. So, by doing a sign and trade, it allows a couple of things. One, Mitch Marner doesn't hit, obviously, the open market itself. But 2, he gets the 8th year on his contract because it's a sign and trade. If Mitch Marner signed with the Vegas Golden Knights just straight up, it would have been only a max 7-year contract. Now, if he's going to sign a 7-year contract, he's probably going to ask for a little bit more money per year. But because it's an 8-year contract, don't have to worry about, it's a little bit less of a cap hit per year. And Vegas had approached the Toronto Maple Leafs about possibly doing some sort of sign and trade, about acquiring the rights of Mitch Marner at some point. That was reported yesterday by Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet. So the compensation going back, it looks like it's just a 1-for-1 trade. Nick Waugh is going to be going to Toronto. That's going to clear up a lot of the necessary cap space that Vegas needs in order for this Mitch Marner thing to go through. And it looks like the trade calls, again, pending the trade call being completed, assuming it all goes through, it's going to be Nick Waugh to Toronto, Mitch Marner going to Vegas Golden Knights. So that's the big one, Graham. But there are also a couple of free agents that have signed here this afternoon since the show started. That all will have impacts on the Carolina Hurricanes tomorrow, and our free agent frenzy continues on 99.9 The Fan. Stick around.
Canes fans, your team will be turned upside down.
I said upside down, you're turning me. You're giving love instinctively. Round and round, you're turning me.
Listen all week for our coverage of the Canes free agent frenzy. Instant reaction to all the Canes additions and moves, and the latest signings from across the NHL. It's the Canes free agent frenzy on 99.9 The Fan. Driven by John Heister Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Lillington. Get off your keister and get to Heister.
Let it roll. Let the Bible belt come and save my soul. Hold on to 16 as long as you can. Changes come around real soon, make us women and men.
That's the sound of a Mountain Dew. And that's you enjoying its refreshing citrus kick. That's a cool breeze suddenly whistling through your hair.
Whoa!
That's you realizing you're now on a mountain.
This is epic!
That's you stating the obvious.
Mountain Dew!
Do the do.
Hurry into Family Fare and get two 20-ounce bottles of ice-cold Mountain Dew for just $4.29. Family Fare, first in thirst.
23 power play points last year. Kicked it back to Caulfield, broken up. Here's a break, 2-on-1. Marner across, can't hit too deep. Marner scores, and they do have their first shorthanded goal of the year.
All right, we're back. It's the drive with Tim Donnelly on 99.9 The Fan. This free agent frenzy, like, we're getting out of these commercial breaks fast for each and every single one of you. By the way, Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. Going to be here for you the rest of this week. Graham Hill is producing the show as well. And we're going to keep you everything going on in the NHL, because when you have one of the top teams in the league, like the Carolina Hurricanes do, let's be honest, Carolina Hurricanes do have one of the top teams in the league. You don't make the conference final 2 out of the last 3 years on accident. All right? You don't just stumble into that. Carolina Hurricanes, well coached and have a really good team. Can they get better? Obviously they can. There's still a gap between them and Florida. Speaking of free agency in Florida, Aaron Ekblad. This happened during the show, Graham. Aaron Ekblad re-signing with the Florida Panthers. Their defenseman who plays on their top defensive pair, right-handed defenseman, which I thought, if he hit the open market, I wouldn't hate it if he was in a Carolina Hurricane uniform, right? Well, guess what? He's sticking around in Florida at 8-year contract at just $6.1 million a year. That's a massive discount than what he probably could have gotten on the open market. Wouldn't have shocked me if he got $8 million a year on the open market. Wouldn't have surprised me one bit. But you know what? If he feels like I can get the extra year of security on a contract, this is enough money for me, I'm happy with where I am. I enjoy the organization, the guys I play with. I'm happy and comfortable with where I live. Maybe there's some different stuff in the contract where it's, hey, a no movement clause for a certain amount of years, whatever it might be. Well, then guess what? Perfectly fine for him to stay in Florida. Team that drafted him number 1 overall. Oh, yeah, Brad Marchand is sticking around in Florida as well. A 6-year contract, just under $32 million a year. My on-air math here, Graham, basically that's just over $5 million a year, probably like 5.2, something like that. So like 5 and change. Now, they're going to have to do a little bit in order to actually get under the salary cap. Possibly. Get under the salary cap, the Florida Panthers will. I think they'll figure it out, obviously, in some way, shape, or form, because their backup goaltender that they just traded for is a restricted free agent. So, obviously, you have to account for a cost for him as well. But I'm sure they can figure something out in order to make it work. But Florida Panthers, they're keeping the band together, Graham.
And why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they with the recent success that they have? They've already just put themselves, they've already just raised their competitive nature or competitive edge once again by these two big re-signs before free agency even starts after coming off recent success for 2 years in a row.
And then the other one, as we mentioned, Mitch Marner on a sign and trade, 8 years, $12 million a year. He's going to go from Toronto to the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas Golden Knights are going to be sending Nick Waugh, who's making $3 million a year with the Vegas Golden Knights. He's going to be going to Toronto. Now, Toronto and Vegas, they were already in talks about sending some sort of compensation back to Toronto for the rights to Mitch Marner, so Mitch Marner wouldn't even hit the open market, and that seems to be the case. I mean, Nick Waugh's making $3 million a year over the next 2 years, so I mean, it's a decent piece. Like, he's a bottom six forward that can play center, who's right-handed as well. Again, former Carolina Hurricane, who will help Toronto, and Toronto's obviously got some cap space and stuff that they can work with as well, but all this stuff impacts the Carolina Hurricanes because now, maybe the Carolina Hurricanes weren't going to get Brad Marchand. Maybe the Carolina Hurricanes weren't going to get Aaron Ekblad. They may possibly weren't even going to get Mitch Marner. But the fact that none of these guys even hit the open market, well, the services for a guy like a Brock Besser, for a guy like Nikolai Ehlers, for a player like Mikael Granlund, all just like the demand for those guys just increased even further. Now, Brock Besser is a 6'1", 207, so not a small guy. Has been a producer in the NHL. I mean, he's got 20-plus goals in all years but two. One of the years that he didn't score 20 goals was a COVID-shortened season that ended in 2020. He was at 16 goals in 57 games. But last year put up 25 goals and 25 assists. The year before that, 40 goals and 33 assists. I mean, he's a player that has been a consistent 20-goal scorer in the league. Not a small guy. Again, 6'1", 207 would actually be somewhat of a size improvement, I guess you could say, or would add size to Carolina. Well, guess what? The price for him and the demand for him just went up. Nikolai Ehlers, kind of a built like Sebastian Aho, 6 foot 172. Who's a winger as well. 20-plus goal scorer consistently in the NHL. Some of the analytics numbers actually fit the Carolina Hurricanes quite well in terms of his puck possession metrics and all that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. But again, a little bit on the smaller side. Well, his demand just went up, which means his price just went up. Mikael Granlund, who's a little bit on the smaller side, but can still play center and is a pretty versatile player, can play in different situations, might be a good fit for Carolina. And if we go and pull up that Kevin Weeks sound cut about Mikael Granlund, Graham, from Kevin Weeks when he joined Adam earlier today. So Kevin Weeks of ESPN, former Carolina Hurricane himself, but Kevin Weeks, part of the ESPN crew, was there on the NHL draft and everything, discussed why Mikael Granlund of the Dallas Stars, who's a free agent, pending free agent, would actually be a good fit for Carolina.
Why not? He's proven that he could play in the postseason. He's proven he could play in the regular season. He plays multiple positions. Hard-working Finnish player. I'm sure he knows and has a relationship with Fishy, who they call down there, yeah. Mr. Aho, among others. And, I've always liked his versatility. I like his skill set. He's unafraid to make plays in the hard areas. And, every team, I shouldn't say every, the good teams have an identity. They have a defined identity in what their characteristics are. The Canes have those. I think he's somebody that they can plug into their system. And it doesn't have to be a huge out-of-pocket spend, but I think there could be some value there as a good top six, maybe middle six player for the Canes that's a professional.
So maybe that's a depth piece that they add. I don't know if that really is going to move the needle for this team. Now, it would help to have a little bit more versatility down the middle. Some extra guys that can roll down the middle of the ice as well. I don't know if that's someone that you have, but guess what? The market continues to get more shallow. Ivan Provorov, defenseman, signing a 7-year deal at $8.5 million a year. Ivan Provorov to stay with the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's someone that's in the division for the Carolina Hurricanes that they have to take into account as well. The only team that's really kind of in a sell mode in terms of like, we're going to try and get future players and offload some salaries possibly is really it's Pittsburgh. It really is. It's Pittsburgh. Now, do you go after a guy like a Brian Rust who can play on the wing, who not the biggest guy in the world, again, 5'11", 6 foot, 190 pounds. Now, again, 192 pounds, not the biggest guy in the world, but he's had 20-plus goals in each of the last 5 seasons. 6 seasons, I should say, including this last year, 31 goals, 34 assists. Do you go after a guy like him? Ricard Raquel has a 18 no-trade list, but do you go after Ricard Raquel, who might be able to play center, who's right-handed, who's a little bigger at 6'1", 203, who's making $5 million a year?
I mean, based on what we just heard and what's come out in this last hour, it might be a situation of you got to pay now or pay later.
Yeah. Pay now or pay later. And Ricard Raquel has been a multiple 30-goal scorer in the NHL. So maybe that's someone you go after from Pittsburgh. Now, is Pittsburgh willing to trade for someone in the division? Now, they traded Jake Gensel to the Carolina Hurricanes a couple years ago. So who knows what Kyle Dubas, their general manager, is trying to do. Now, Raquel might be someone that you add in. Now, he's got 3 years left on his contract. He's 32 years old. He makes $5 million a year. Carolina Hurricanes have the cap space to do that. They really do. Something to keep in mind as well, Graham. I know we're closing the show out here. By the way, if you missed any of the show, check it out on the Best of the Drive podcast. Or if you go on 99.9 The Fan on YouTube, Graham's putting clips from the show on there. You can actually just watch the entire show on YouTube.
I can finally breathe now after getting that Mitch Marner, Brad Marchand breaking news video up there.
None of us have taken a breath yet. So if you missed any of the show, you can find it there. It's the free agent frenzy. We're going to have everything going on for you guys. Any of the breaking news tomorrow, we're going to break it all down all across the league, not just the Carolina Hurricanes. Our free agent frenzy presented by John Heiser, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. If the Carolina Hurricanes do add a winger, Graham, something to keep in mind. This team's already pretty loaded with wingers. I think they're actually pretty loaded with middle 6 wingers as well. Because obviously the guys that can play on the top line as wingers are Seth Jarvis, Andrei Svechnikov. Maybe Logan Stankoven eventually does evolve into that, but maybe he's just not quite there yet. But then in the middle part of the lineup as forwards, as wingers, I should say, you have Taylor Hall and Logan Stankoven. You have Jordan Martinook. You have Jackson Blake. Then you kind of get into the bottom part of the lineup. You have Eric Robinson, William Carrier. You also have Mark Jankowski, can play the wing as well. Obviously, he's probably slotted to be a fourth-line center right now. But if you add a winger, that alters, like, who sits out. Like, do you take William Carrier out of the lineup? Does that put Jackson Blake down on your quote-unquote fourth line? Does that put Stankoven down with, like, Jordan Martinook and Jordan Stahl, where we saw him play last year? Like, how do things shift and evolve if you do add a winger? Because the team's pretty loaded with wingers right now. That's a major question going forward. Now, also as well, with Aaron Ekblad off the board, with guys like Ivan Provorov off the board, you need a right-handed defenseman that can play alongside Jacob Slavin. Is the answer an incentive-laden Brent Burns deal? Now, if the Carolina Hurricanes re-sign Brent Burns, my guess it's going to be an incentive-laden one-year deal, and it's going to be a reduced role. Like, hey, you're going to be like the number 6 or 7 defenseman on this team. Does that mean, do you bump up Sean Walker to a top pair? Or do you go trade for Rasmus Anderson? Again, all questions that this team has to answer. This team still needs a right-handed defenseman, and they need a scorer that can play in their top 6 forwards. They need to add another 20-plus goal scorer, if not a 30-plus goal scorer, to this team. They need to add that tremendously. Tomorrow's going to be a fascinating day, so make sure you stay locked in here on 99.9 The Fan, because we're definitely going to make sure we have it all covered for you as well. As I do one last refresh here, Graham, of all the insiders and pundits that cover the league on a national level.
Yeah, good point.
I'm like, what else did we miss? We want to make sure we didn't miss anything. So, again, the big news of the day today, Mitch Marner on a sign and trade, 8 years, $12 million a year, is going to be going from Toronto to the Vegas Golden Knights. Nick Waugh making $3 million a year. A depth forward is going to be going back from Vegas to Toronto. So Mitch Marner not hitting free agency. He's going to Vegas, 8-year deal, $12 million a year. Aaron Ekblad, the defenseman for the Florida Panthers, staying with the Panthers. 8-year deal, $6.1 million a year. Brad Marchand, staying with the Florida Panthers, 6-year deal at just over $5.2 million a year. These guys are sticking around. Ivan Provorov, defenseman for the Columbus Blue Jackets, sticking around for 7 years at $8.5 million a year. These are big-time signings, folks. So stay locked in. 3 o'clock tomorrow on The Fan. We're breaking everything down. A whole lot going on in the NHL. We'll see what the Carolina Hurricanes do tomorrow, who they bring in. Graham, good work today. Thank you for listening and tuning in today. Stay locked into The Fan. Y'all be good. We'll see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock here on The Drive.